The gymnasium falls silent. Marcus Reed, 30 years old, with shoulders that have carried more weight than most men twice his size, stands across from Ryan Cole, the Academy's golden boy, 23 and cocky as hell. Ryan bounces on his toes, grinning at the older man whose work-worn hands and tired eyes make him look like someone's uncle who stumbled into tryouts by mistake. The other recruits whisper, place bets. Then Marcus moves. 3 seconds. That's all it takes. Ryan hits the mat so hard the sound echoes like a gunshot, and the entire room goes dead quiet. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody except Marcus, who's been fighting his whole life, just never in a ring. Want to see how a single father with nothing left to lose becomes the man everyone underestimated? Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry hornets as Marcus Reed filled out his application at a battered folding table in the corner of the State Police Academy's registration hall. His pen hesitated over the emergency contact line. He wrote his son's name, Daniel, age 7, then crossed it out. You couldn't list a child as your emergency contact. He left it blank. First time applying. Marcus looked up. The woman behind the desk was middle-aged, with kind eyes that had seen too many dreamers walk through these doors. Her name tag read Patricia. Yes, ma'am, Marcus said, his voice a low rumble that came from somewhere deep in his chest. Patricia glanced at his application, her eyes catching on his age. 30. Most recruits were fresh out of college, their faces still soft with the privilege of parents who paid their rent and cars that ran without prayer. Marcus's truck had died twice on the way here. He'd coaxed it back to life both times with the same desperate whispers he used when Daniel had nightmares. You know the acceptance rate is less than 8%, Patricia said gently. It wasn't discouragement. It was kindness, the kind that tried to soften the blow before it landed. I know. Marcus slid the application across the desk. But I'm not here for statistics. I'm here for my son. Something flickered in Patricia's expression. She stamped his application without another word. The physical assessment started at dawn the next day. Marcus arrived an hour early, sitting in his truck in the parking lot as the sky shifted from black to deep purple. He'd left Daniel with Mrs. Chen, their neighbor, a grandmother who smelled like jasmine tea and asked for nothing in return except that Marcus sometimes carried her groceries up the stairs. He'd kissed his son's forehead in the darkness of their tiny apartment, Daniel's small body warm and trusting beneath his superhero blanket. You got this, Dad, Daniel had mumbled, half asleep. Marcus had smiled even though his son couldn't see it. Always do, little man. Now watching other candidates arrive in expensive workout gear, stretching with the casual confidence of people who belonged here, Marcus wondered if he'd lied to his son. Again. The gymnasium was enormous, a cathedral of sweat and ambition. Recruits clustered in groups, sizing each other up with the primal intensity of predators recognizing competition. Marcus stood alone near the wall, stretching his shoulders slowly, methodically. His body was a map of hard labor, broad shoulders from years of loading docks, calloused hands from construction sites, a back that ached every morning from sleeping on a couch so Daniel could have the bedroom. Look at this guy. The voice carried across the gym. Marcus didn't react. Somebody's dad wandered in from the unemployment line. Laughter, sharp and cutting. Marcus had heard it before. He'd hear it again. He focused on his breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, the way his wife Sarah had taught him during her yoga phase, back when she was alive, back when the world made sense. All right, listen up. All right. The voice belonged to Sergeant Miller, a woman built like a fire hydrant with a face that suggested she ate nails for breakfast. She stood at the center of the gym, hands on her hips, surveying the recruits with the expression of someone deeply unimpressed with humanity. Welcome to hell, Miller announced cheerfully. You're here because you think you have what it takes to serve and protect. Statistically, most of you are wrong. We're going to spend the next 12 weeks proving it. First up, combat assessment. This isn't about winning. It's about how you handle pressure, how you think on your feet, and whether you've got the discipline to control your strength. Pair up. The gym erupted into motion. Recruits gravitating toward friends, toward people who looked like them, toward anyone who didn't look too dangerous. Marcus waited. He was always picked last for these things. Had been since high school gym class. You. Marcus turned. Ryan Cole stood there, all 6 feet of corn-fed confidence, his blonde hair styled even for a sparring match. He was the kind of handsome that opened doors, the kind of young that believed the world owed him something. Behind him, his friends watched with anticipatory grins. "You're with me, old-timer," Ryan said, loud enough for everyone to hear. More laughter rippled through the gym. Marcus nodded slowly. "All right." They moved to the center mat. Sergeant Miller approached, her eyes sharp. "This is controlled sparring. First person to pin their opponent for 3 seconds or force a submission wins. No strikes to the face, groin, or throat. Control your strength or you're disqualified and out of the program. Understand?" "Yes, ma'am," they said in unison. "Cole, you're young and fast. Don't let that make you stupid." "No, ma'am." Miller turned to Marcus. She studied him for a long moment. "Reed, you look like you've been in a fight before. Don't bring street habits into my gym." "No, ma'am," Marcus said quietly. The whistle blew. Ryan came in fast, just like Miller predicted. He shot for Marcus's legs, trying to use speed and youth to overwhelm the older man. It was a good strategy against most opponents. Marcus wasn't most opponents. 30 years of life had taught Marcus something that couldn't be learned in any academy: patience. While Ryan lunged forward with all the grace of a bull chasing red, Marcus simply stepped aside. Not far. Just enough. His hand came down on the back of Ryan's neck. Not hard, just present, guiding the young man's momentum exactly where Marcus wanted it to go. Ryan stumbled. Before he could recover, Marcus's other hand had his wrist. A pivot. A shift of weight. The principles were simple. The execution honed by years of moving furniture, carrying his son, loading trucks. Understanding leverage when you couldn't rely on anything else. The throw was almost gentle. Marcus controlled it all the way down, making sure Ryan wouldn't actually get hurt. But the impact was undeniable. Ryan hit the mat flat on his back, and Marcus's weight was already there. One knee on his chest, one hand controlling his arm. "1," Sergeant Miller's voice. Ryan struggled, his eyes wide with shock. 2. The gym was silent, absolutely silent. 3. Marcus released Ryan immediately, offering his hand to help the younger man up. Ryan stared at the hand like it was a snake. After a moment, his pride won over his sense, and he slapped the hand away, standing on his own. "Lucky shot," Ryan muttered, but his face was red, and his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe," Marcus said softly. "Or maybe you're just young." The assessment continued. Marcus faced 4 more opponents throughout the morning. He won 3 times, lost once, to a woman named Jennifer Torres, who had been a collegiate wrestler and knew 16 different ways to break his balance. Marcus tapped out respectfully, thanked her for the lesson, and made a mental note to watch how she moved. During the lunch break, most recruits clustered in groups, sharing protein bars and war stories. Marcus sat alone on the gym steps, eating a peanut butter sandwich he'd made that morning. It was slightly crushed from being in his bag. "Mind if I sit?" Marcus looked up. The woman was young, maybe 25, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes the color of coffee. She wore the academy's staff uniform, not a recruit then. Support personnel. "Free country," Marcus said. She sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. "I'm Elena Carter. I work in student services. Help coordinate housing, address personal issues, that kind of thing." "Marcus Reed." "I know. Everyone knows. You're the guy who put Ryan Cole on his back in 3 seconds. Marcus took another bite of his sandwich. "He put himself there. I just helped." Elena laughed, a warm sound that reminded Marcus of summer evenings when Sarah would laugh at his terrible jokes while they sat on their fire escape, back when Daniel was just a dream they whispered about in the dark. "That's a diplomatic way of putting it," Elena said. "Can I ask you something? And you can tell me it's none of my business." You can ask." "Why are you here? I mean, I read the applications. Most of these kids are here because it seemed like a good job, or their parents were cops, or they watched too many action movies, but you," she hesitated, "you look like someone who needs this, not wants it, needs it." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching recruits mill around the parking lot. Finally, he spoke. "I've got a son, Daniel. He's 7, smart as hell, kind as his mother was. Right now, we live in a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where gunshots are white noise. I work 3 part-time jobs and I still can't always make rent. I can't give him what he deserves. Can't protect him from the world he's growing up in. Can't promise him a future that looks different from my past. He turned to look at Elena directly. This job? It's stable. Benefits. A real salary. A pension. It's a chance to show my son that you can start from nothing and build something. That you don't have to stay stuck just because the world expects you to be. Elena's eyes had gone soft. His mother? Cancer, 3 years ago. She fought like hell, but Marcus's jaw tightened. Some fights you can't win, so now I've got to win the ones I can. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena reached into her bag and pulled out an apple. You should eat something with vitamins, she said. Peanut butter sandwiches aren't going to get you through 12 weeks of this. Marcus took the apple. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm about to make your life harder. You're going to need childcare coordination, probably financial counseling to figure out how to survive on a recruit's stipend, and someone to help you navigate the bureaucracy when things get complicated, which they will. That's my job. So you're stuck with me now. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. Could be worse. Could be better too, Elena said, standing up. But we work with what we've got. See you around, Marcus Reed. She walked away, and Marcus watched her go, something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or something close to it. The afternoon brought written exams, psychological assessments, situational judgment tests, basic law and civil rights questions. Marcus had studied every night for the past 2 months. After Daniel went to bed, under the dim light of their kitchen lamp while sirens wailed outside. The questions were hard but fair. He worked through them methodically, his handwriting careful and deliberate. 2 seats ahead of him, Ryan Cole tapped his pencil against his desk, the sound rhythmic and irritating. When the proctor wasn't looking, Ryan turned around and caught Marcus's eye. He mouthed 2 words, "Lucky shot." Marcus looked down at his test and kept writing. The days blurred together after that. Wake up at 4:30, drive to the academy through darkness, train until his body screamed, defensive tactics, firearms qualification, emergency vehicle operations, legal procedures, community policing philosophy. The curriculum was designed to break people down and rebuild them into something useful. Marcus had been broken before. He knew how to rebuild. What he hadn't expected was the isolation. In the academy cafeteria, recruits formed natural alliances. The former military guys clustered together, talking about deployments and discipline. The college athletes bonded over sports and training regimens. The legacy recruits, kids whose parents or grandparents had been cops, formed their own aristocracy of inherited purpose. Marcus ate alone. It wasn't entirely by choice. A few recruits had tried to befriend him in those first weeks. Jennifer Torres, who'd beaten him in sparring, sometimes nodded hello. A quiet guy named David Park once asked Marcus for help with a defensive tactics technique. But Ryan Cole had poisoned the well effectively, making Marcus the outsider, the charity case, the old man who didn't belong. Don't let it get to you. Marcus looked up from his tray. Sergeant Miller stood there, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Ma'am? The politics, the high school bullshit. These kids think they know what matters. They don't. You keep your head down, do the work, and let your performance speak. Everything else is noise. Yes, ma'am. Miller studied him. You've got something most of these recruits lack. You know why you're here. That gives you an advantage they can't buy with expensive gear and daddy's connections. Don't waste it. She walked away before Marcus could respond. That night, driving home in his barely functional truck, Marcus called Mrs. Chen on his ancient cell phone. Mr. Reed, Daniel is fine. He ate all his dinner, even the vegetables. Marcus could hear his son's laughter in the background, probably watching cartoons. The sound made his chest ache with longing and purpose in equal measure. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Take your time. We're just fine here. When Marcus finally climbed the 3 flights of stairs to their apartment, he found Daniel already in his pajamas, building an elaborate tower out of blocks on the living room floor. Dad! Daniel launched himself at Marcus, who caught him easily, spinning him around despite the exhaustion in his bones. Hey, little man, how was school? Good. We learned about planets. Did you know Jupiter has a storm that's been going on for hundreds of years? Like, the storm is older than great-great-great-grandma would be. Marcus set Daniel down, crouching to his level. That's pretty amazing. What else did you learn? They talked about school, about Daniel's friends, about the stray cat that had shown up in the alley and that Daniel desperately wanted to adopt. Marcus listened with the full attention he always gave his son, even when his body was begging for sleep. Later, after Daniel was in bed, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his academy materials spread out before him. He had a test on constitutional law tomorrow, and he needed to understand the Fourth Amendment's nuances. The words blurred together on the page. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Elena from Student Services. Patricia gave me your number. Hope that's okay. Just wanted to check in. How are you holding up?" Marcus stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. "I'm good. Thanks for asking." The response came quickly. "Liar. But I respect the effort. If you need anything, childcare resources, financial planning, or just someone to talk to who won't judge, my door's open, metaphorically. My actual door is in Building C, Room 14. Marcus found himself smiling. "I'll remember that." "You better. Also, you should join the study group. Jennifer Torres runs one Tuesday and Thursday nights. Don't let Ryan's bullshit keep you isolated. You belong here as much as anyone." Marcus looked at the words for a long time. You belong here. When was the last time anyone had said that to him? "I'll think about it." "Think harder." "Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Elena." He put the phone down and went back to studying, but something had shifted. The material seemed a little less overwhelming, the path forward a little less lonely. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the academy to find a note taped to his locker. The handwriting was crude, the message cruder. "Go back to the unemployment line, old man. You don't belong here." Marcus crumpled the note and threw it away without ceremony. He'd been called worse by better people. The day's training was firearms qualification. They stood on the range in rows, each recruit with a Glock 17, ear protection making the world muffled and strange. The targets were human-shaped silhouettes at various distances. The goal was accuracy under pressure. Marcus had never fired a gun before the academy. Guns meant violence in his neighborhood, meant grief and funerals for young men who looked like him. But this was different. This was control. This was responsibility. The instructors had drilled that into them. A firearm was the last resort, the final option when all other choices had failed. "Reed, you're up." Marcus stepped to the line. The instructor, a grizzled man named Harrison with 30 years on the force, stood beside him. "Remember your fundamentals?" Harrison said quietly. "Stance, sight, alignment, trigger control, follow-through. Don't anticipate the recoil. Let the shot surprise you." Marcus nodded. He raised the weapon, his grip firm but not tense, his breathing steady. The target was 15 yards away. He focused on the front sight, everything else fading to blur. Squeezed the trigger smoothly. The shot went wide, hitting the target's shoulder instead of center mass. "Again," Harrison said. "You're jerking the trigger. Smooth pressure like squeezing a lemon." Marcus fired again. Closer, but still not centered. Behind him, he heard Ryan Cole's voice, loud enough to carry despite the ear protection. Probably never even seen a gun before except in a robbery. Several recruits laughed. Marcus lowered the weapon, turning to look at Ryan. The younger man stared back, defiant. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Marcus turned back to the target. He raised the weapon again. This time, he didn't think about Ryan, or the laughter, or the note in his locker. He thought about Daniel, asking him how training went, believing in his father with the unshakable faith of childhood. He thought about Sarah, who had believed in him when nobody else did, who had looked at a struggling 23-year-old with nothing to his name and seen someone worth loving. He thought about proving them right. The shot was perfect. Dead center, right through the heart of the target. Marcus fired again, and again. 5 shots. 5 perfect hits, the grouping so tight you could cover it with your fist. When he lowered the weapon, the range was silent except for the ringing in everyone's ears. Instructor Harrison took the weapon from Marcus, checking it with professional efficiency, then looked at the target. He nodded slowly. "Decent," Harrison said, which from him was equivalent to a standing ovation. "You've been practicing?" "Yes, sir. Dry fire drills every night." "Shows. Keep it up." As Marcus walked back to the waiting area, he passed Ryan. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Sometimes the best response was simply being undeniable. That evening, Marcus showed up to Jennifer Torres's study group. It met in an empty classroom in Building C, just down the hall from Elena's office. 6 recruits sat around a table covered in textbooks and energy drinks. Jennifer looked up when Marcus entered. "Reed, glad you could make it. Grab a seat." The others glanced at him with varying degrees of welcome. David Park smiled. A woman named Ashley Rodriguez nodded hello. 2 others, Marcus thought their names were Kevin and Sarah, though he wasn't sure, looked uncertain but not hostile. "We're going over pursuit policies," Jennifer said. "The test is Friday, and Miller says it's going to be brutal. What do you know about the fleeing felon rule?" "Tennessee versus Garner, 1985, Marcus said, sitting down. "Police can't use deadly force to prevent escape unless the suspect poses a significant threat of death or serious physical injury to officers or others." Jennifer raised her eyebrows. "Somebody did the reading." "I always do the reading." They studied for 2 hours, working through scenarios, debating interpretations, challenging each other's understanding. Marcus found himself enjoying it, the intellectual rigor, the collaborative energy, the sense of working towards something larger than himself. These people were going to be his colleagues, maybe his partners. Trust started here in moments like this. When the session ended, David Park approached Marcus in the parking lot. "Hey man, I just wanted to say, don't let Ryan get to you. He's intimidated." Marcus unlocked his truck. "Intimidated by what?" "By the fact that you don't need this. You want it. That's different. That's dangerous to guys like him who are just here because they don't know what else to do with their lives." David hesitated. "Also, that thing on the range today, that was badass." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Thanks. See you tomorrow." Driving home, Marcus realized he felt lighter somehow. Less alone. The isolation was cracking, slowly but surely. When he walked into the apartment, Daniel was waiting up, technically past his bedtime, but Mrs. Chen was a pushover and they both knew it. "Dad, did you shoot guns today?" "I did. Were you good at it?" Marcus picked up his son, carrying him toward the bedroom. "I'm getting better, just like you're getting better at reading, remember?" "I'm really good at reading now, Mrs. Henderson says I'm the best in the class." "That's because you practice. Same as anything else. You want to be good at something, you practice until it becomes part of you." He tucked Daniel into bed, pulling the blanket up to his chin. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy?" "Are you going to be a police officer? Like, for real?" Marcus looked at his son's face, so small and hopeful in the dim glow of the nightlight. "I'm going to try my hardest. That's all anyone can do." "You'll make it. I know you will." The faith in Daniel's voice was absolute, terrifying in its purity. Marcus kissed his forehead. "Get some sleep, little man. School tomorrow." "Love you, Dad." "Love you too. More than anything." The weeks ground forward with relentless intensity. Physical training that left Marcus's body screaming. Legal studies that filled his head with statutes and case law. Scenario training where every decision was scrutinized, every hesitation analyzed. The academy was designed to strip away illusions, to reveal who you really were under pressure. Marcus discovered he was someone who stayed calm. While other recruits panicked during high-stress scenarios, active shooter simulations, domestic violence calls, traffic stops gone wrong, Marcus found a center of stillness inside himself. Maybe it came from raising a child alone, from making life or death decisions about rent versus groceries, from holding Sarah's hand as she died and having to function anyway because Daniel needed him to. The instructors noticed. "Reed, come here." It was week 7. Captain Williams, the academy director, stood outside the tactical training building. She was a legend, 30 years on the force, first black woman to make captain in the state, harder than woodpecker lips. "Yes, ma'am." Williams studied him with eyes that missed nothing. "Your tactical scores are excellent. Your academic performance is strong. Your firearms qualification improved from barely passing to expert marksman in 6 weeks. You're maintaining a 3.8 GPA while working harder than anyone else here. Why?" Marcus wasn't sure if it was a test. "I can't afford to fail, ma'am." "Because of your son." "Yes, ma'am." "Patricia showed me your application. Emergency contact left blank because you don't have anyone. No family support system. Living paycheck to paycheck. Most recruits in your situation wash out by week 3. The stress breaks them, but you're not breaking. Why? Marcus thought about it carefully. Because breaking isn't an option. My son is watching me. He needs to know that when life knocks you down, you get back up. That you keep fighting even when the odds are against you. If I quit, what does that teach him? Williams nodded slowly. You've got something rare, Reed. Most people fight for themselves. You fight for something bigger. That makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Don't lose it. No, ma'am. And Reed, that study group you joined? Keep going. Community matters. Nobody makes it through this alone. That night, Elena texted him. Coffee tomorrow morning before class. My treat. Marcus stared at the message. It had been so long since someone offered him something without expecting anything in return. Since Sarah, really. You don't have to do that. I know. I want to. Plus, we need to talk about your financial aid application. You made some mistakes that could cost you, and I'd rather fix them over coffee than in my depressing office. Marcus smiled. What time? 6:30. There's a place 2 blocks from campus. Brings real cream, not that powdered crap. See you there. The coffee shop was small and warm, the kind of place that survived on regulars and good Wi-Fi. Elena was already there when Marcus arrived, 2 cups steaming on the table between them. Black, right? You seem like a black coffee person. How'd you know? You're efficient. You don't waste time on things that don't matter. Sugar and cream don't matter. She pushed the cup toward him. But I got you a blueberry muffin anyway because you need more calories. You've lost weight since starting the academy. Marcus sat down, accepting the muffin. You notice a lot. It's my job. Also, I pay attention to people I care about. The words hung in the air between them. Marcus took a sip of coffee to cover his reaction. About the financial aid, Elena said, pulling out a folder. You qualified for the state assistance program, but you listed your income wrong. You didn't include your part-time work, which actually helps you because it shows employment stability. We need to resubmit. Also, there's a scholarship fund specifically for single parents in the academy. Nobody knows about it because it's privately funded and the paperwork is buried. I dug it up. You qualify. She handed him forms already highlighted and marked. Elena, I can't. You can, and you will. This isn't charity, Marcus. This is recognition. You're one of the top recruits in your class. You deserve support. Marcus looked at the forms, his throat tight. Why are you helping me? Elena was quiet for a moment, her fingers wrapped around her coffee cup. My dad was a cop. Single parent, too, after my mom left. He worked himself to death trying to give me a good life. Literally, heart attack at 48, on duty. I was 16. She met Marcus's eyes. I see him in you. The same stubborn determination, the same refusal to quit. And I think if someone had helped him, had made it a little easier, maybe he'd still be here. So I'm helping you. For him. For your son. And maybe a little bit for me, too. Marcus didn't trust himself to speak. He just nodded. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee as the sun rose over the city, 2 people carrying their own grief, finding unexpected solace in each other's company. Tell me about Daniel, Elena said eventually. So Marcus did. He talked about his son's obsession with dinosaurs, his talent for drawing, his habit of leaving notes around the apartment, little drawings of stick figures labeled Dad and me holding hands. He talked about Daniel's laugh, which was exactly like Sarah's, and how sometimes Marcus heard it and forgot for just a second that she was gone. Elena listened without interrupting, without offering platitudes, just present and attentive in a way that made Marcus feel seen. He sounds amazing, she said when Marcus finished. He is. He's everything. You should bring him by campus sometime. Let him see where you're training. Make it real for him. Marcus considered that. He'd like that. Then do it. Saturday morning, if you're free. I'll give you a tour. Show him where his dad is becoming a superhero. Marcus laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. I'm no superhero. Tell that to Ryan Cole's ego. They finished their coffee and walked to campus together, talking easily about nothing important, the weather, the terrible cafeteria food, the rumor that next week's scenario training would involve live actors and simulated weapons. It was ordinary and comfortable. and Marcus realized with some surprise that he'd made a friend. The day's training was brutal, a full scenario simulation involving a domestic violence call that escalated into a hostage situation. Recruits were paired up, given minimal information, and expected to handle it properly. Most failed. They went in too aggressive or too passive, or froze when the situation deteriorated. Marcus was paired with Jennifer Torres. They approached the scenario house cautiously, Jennifer taking point because she had better communication skills. Inside, they found two actors, a man shouting and aggressive, a woman crying and terrified, a child, played by a teenage volunteer, hiding behind furniture. "Police, we need everyone to calm down." The man spun toward them, his face twisted with rage. "Get out! This is my house, my family!" Jennifer held up her hands, her voice steady. "Sir, we're here to help. We received a call about a disturbance. We just need to make sure everyone's safe." "We're fine. Leave." Marcus watched the woman. Her eyes screamed terror, and she kept glancing toward a door. Bedroom, probably, where real danger might be hiding. He caught Jennifer's eye, communicated silently. She understood. While Jennifer kept the man talking, Marcus slowly moved toward the woman. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" She shook her head, but her hands were trembling. "Is there anyone else in the house?" A barely perceptible nod toward the bedroom. Marcus made a decision. "Jennifer, I'm going to check the other rooms." The scenario was designed to force that choice, split up or stay together, each with risks. Marcus moved toward the bedroom, his simulated weapon drawn but lowered, his body language non-threatening. The bedroom door opened. Another actor emerged, this one with a fake gun, pointing it directly at Marcus. The scenario facilitator was watching, timing his response. Marcus didn't panic. He'd been in tight spots before. Different kind, but the principle was the same. Stay calm. Assess. Act. "Sir, I need you to lower the weapon. Get out of my house." "I understand you're upset, but pointing a weapon at a police officer is going to make the situation much worse for everyone, including the child in the other room. Is that what you want?" The actor hesitated, following the script's branches based on Marcus's response. Marcus kept talking, his voice low and steady, the same voice he used when Daniel had nightmares. "I have a son, about the same age as that little one out there. You know what scares kids? Seeing adults lose control, seeing violence. That child is going to remember this day for the rest of their life. What do you want them to remember? You can make that choice right now." Slowly, the actor lowered the fake weapon. "That's good. Thank you. I'm going to need you to put it on the ground and step away." The scenario ended. The facilitator called clear, and the actors broke character. Captain Williams approached, her expression unreadable. "Reed, Torres, debrief." They walked through their decisions, their communication, their tactical choices. Williams listened without interrupting, then nodded. "Good work. Reed, that was exceptional de-escalation. You didn't pull your weapon, didn't raise your voice, maintained control without being controlling. That's textbook crisis intervention. Where'd you learn it?" Marcus thought about 3 a.m. conversations with a scared 7-year-old, about talking Sarah through pain when the medication wasn't enough, about every moment in his life when force would have been easier, but patience was necessary. "Experience, ma'am. Different kind than police work, but it transfers." Williams almost smiled. "Indeed it does." Dismissed. As they left the scenario house, Jennifer bumped Marcus's shoulder. "You're kind of brilliant, you know that?" "Just trying to keep up." "Bullshit. You're setting the standard the rest of us are trying to meet." She paused. "Ryan's going to lose his mind when he sees the scoring for this." She was right. When the scenario results were posted that afternoon, Marcus and Jennifer had the highest marks in the class. Ryan's team had failed. He'd escalated the situation instead of de-escalating, and the scenario had ended with simulated casualties. Marcus found another note in his locker. "Teacher's pet won't save you in the real world." He threw it away and didn't mention it to anyone. That weekend, as promised, Marcus brought Daniel to the academy. Elena met them in the parking lot, crouching down to Daniel's level. "You must be Daniel. I'm Elena. Your dad talks about you all the time." Daniel looked at her shyly, then at Marcus. "Is she your friend, Dad?" "Yeah, buddy, she's my friend." "Cool. Dad doesn't have a lot of friends." Elena laughed. "Well, he's got one now. Want to see where your dad is training to be a police officer?" Daniel's eyes went wide. Yes. They toured the campus, the gym where Marcus trained, the classroom where he studied, the firing range, which Daniel thought was so cool, even though they couldn't go inside during active hours. Elena told stories that made Daniel laugh, showed him equipment, explained what his dad was learning. Your dad is one of the best recruits here, Elena said as they walked. Did you know that? Daniel looked up at Marcus with pure pride. He's the best at everything. Not everything, Marcus said. I'm terrible at cooking. That's true, Daniel agreed seriously. We eat a lot of sandwiches. Elena smiled. Maybe I could teach you both some simple recipes if you want. Marcus met her eyes. There was something there, something warm and careful and new. We'd like that. After the tour, they got lunch at a diner near campus. Daniel talked nonstop about school, about his friends, about the science project he was working on. Elena listened with genuine interest, asking questions, making Daniel feel important and heard. Watching them together, Marcus felt something shift in his chest. The wall he'd built around himself after Sarah died, the fortress that kept grief in and possibility out, developed a crack. Later, after dropping Daniel at home with Mrs. Chen, Marcus texted Elena, "Thank you for today, for everything. Thank you for letting me in. See you Monday." Definitely. Monday brought week 9 and the beginning of advanced tactical training. They learned about traffic stops, about reading people, about the split-second decisions that could mean life or death. They practiced until their muscles remembered procedures even when their minds went blank with stress. Marcus excelled, but he wasn't perfect. He struggled with the technical aspects of the patrol car computer system. He second-guessed himself during high-speed pursuit simulations. He had nightmares about failing, about having to tell Daniel that he hadn't made it, about going back to the struggle of multiple jobs and never enough money. But he didn't quit. During week 10, Sergeant Miller pulled him aside. "Reed, I'm recommending you for a leadership position for the final assessment. Class president coordinates the crisis simulation in week 12. It's a lot of responsibility." "Ma'am, I don't know if I'm the right choice. I'm not exactly popular." "Popularity is irrelevant. Leadership is about making hard choices and standing by them. You've demonstrated that consistently. Think about it." Marcus did think about it. That night, he talked it over with Elena at their now regular coffee meetups. "You should do it," she said firmly. "Those other recruits need to see that leadership isn't about being the loudest or the most confident. It's about being steady when everything's falling apart." "What if I fail?" "What if you don't?" Marcus accepted the position. The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Jennifer and David congratulated him. Several others seemed supportive. Ryan Cole's group muttered about favoritism and diversity quotas, loud enough to be heard but quiet enough to maintain deniability. Marcus didn't engage. He focused on preparation, on understanding the crisis simulation framework, on coordinating with his classmates to develop strategies. The final crisis simulation was scheduled for week 12. It would be the culmination of everything they'd learned, a complex scenario designed to test not just individual skills, but teamwork, decision-making under pressure, and leadership. Everything Marcus had worked for came down to this. The night before the simulation, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, reviewing notes, second-guessing every decision. His phone buzzed. "Elena, stop overthinking. You've prepared. Trust yourself." Marcus, "How'd you know I was up?" Elena, "Because I know you. Get some sleep. Tomorrow you're going to show everyone what real strength looks like." Marcus smiled, exhaustion pulling at his bones. He checked on Daniel, asleep, peaceful, dreaming whatever 7-year-olds dream about, and finally allowed himself to rest. Tomorrow would come, ready or not. And Marcus Reed had spent his entire life getting ready for moments just like this. Arrive in clusters, their breath forming. Arrive in clusters, their breath forming clouds in the frozen air. He'd been there since 5, unable to stay in bed, his mind racing through contingencies and backup plans. Jennifer Torres pulled up in her Honda, spotted Marcus, and walked over with 2 coffee cups from the gas station. "Figured you'd be here early," she said, handing him one. "You ready for this?" Marcus took the coffee gratefully. "As ready as I'll ever be." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." Jennifer studied him for a moment, her expression serious. Look, I know Ryan and his crew have been giving you hell, but most of the class respects you. We know you earned this leadership position. Don't second-guess yourself now. What if I make the wrong call? What if someone gets hurt because Marcus, Jennifer's voice cut through his spiral. In the real world, people get hurt sometimes, no matter what you do. What matters is that you make the best decision you can with the information you have. That's all any of us can do, and you're better at that than anyone I've seen. David Park's truck rumbled into the lot, followed by several other vehicles. The class was gathering, 28 recruits who'd survived 12 weeks of the Academy's relentless grind. They'd started with 35. Some had washed out physically, unable to maintain the pace. Others had failed academically. One had been dismissed for an integrity violation. The survivors were stronger for it, forged by shared suffering into something resembling a team. Captain Williams emerged from the main building at 6 o'clock sharp, Sergeant Miller beside her. The recruits assembled automatically, years of conditioning making the formation second nature. "Good morning," Williams said, her voice carrying across the parking lot without shouting. "Today is your final crisis simulation. Everything you've learned over the past 12 weeks will be tested. This is not a scenario with one right answer. This is chaos, and your job is to bring order. Lives will depend on your decisions. Careers will be made or broken. Are you ready?" "Yes, ma'am." The response was unified, forceful. Reed, front and center. Marcus stepped forward, his heart hammering against his ribs. Williams handed him a tablet. "You're in command. The scenario begins in 30 minutes. You have until then to review the initial briefing and organize your team. The rest of you, Reed is your commanding officer for this exercise. You follow his lead, even if you disagree with his decisions. That's how chain of command works. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then get to work." Marcus looked down at the tablet, his hand steadier than he'd expected. The briefing was deliberately vague, designed to simulate the fog of real crisis response. Reports of shots fired at a commercial complex, multiple calls to 911, conflicting information about the number of shooters, possible hostages. Chaos. He gathered the class in the briefing room, projecting the information on the screen. "All right, listen up. We've got a fluid situation. What we know, shots fired at the Riverside Shopping Plaza approximately 10 minutes ago. Multiple 911 calls reporting anywhere from 1 to 3 shooters. At least 4 confirmed injuries, status unknown. The complex has a grocery store, a bank, several retail shops, and a food court. We don't know the shooter's location or motive. We don't know if there are hostages." Ryan Cole raised his hand, his expression challenging. "So we don't actually know anything useful. We know people are in danger," Marcus said evenly. "We know we're the response. That's enough to start. Here's how we're going to structure this. I need 4 teams. Team 1, led by Torres, your primary entry and engagement. Team 2, Park and Command, your perimeter security and crowd control. Team 3, Rodriguez, you handle medical triage and civilian evacuation. Team 4, Cole, you're my command support and intelligence gathering." Ryan's jaw tightened. Being assigned to command support meant he wouldn't be in the direct action, which was clearly a blow to his ego. But it was the right call. Marcus needed people in that role who could process information quickly, and Ryan, for all his attitude, was sharp. "Questions?" Several hands went up. Marcus spent the next 20 minutes going through assignments, clarifying roles, establishing communication protocols. The scenario actors would be positioned throughout a warehouse that had been converted into a mock shopping complex. Live sim rounds would be used, paint-filled bullets that hurt like hell but weren't lethal. The realism was intentional. The Academy wanted to see how recruits handled genuine fear. "Final thing," Marcus said as they prepared to move out. "Remember your training. Don't rush in trying to be heroes. We go slow, we go careful, we communicate constantly. Our job is to save lives, not take them. Even the shooter's life, if we can manage it. Everyone clear?" "Clear." They loaded into patrol vehicles, the convoy rolling toward the training facility with lights flashing. Marcus rode with Jennifer and David, reviewing the facility layout on the tablet. "You seem calm," Jennifer observed. "I'm terrified," Marcus admitted. "But being scared doesn't help anyone. So I'm putting it aside until later." "How do you do that?" Marcus thought about holding Sarah's hand in the hospital, about being strong for her even when he wanted to fall apart. about all the nights he'd cried silently in the shower so Daniel wouldn't hear. "Practice," he said simply. The facility loomed ahead, a massive warehouse with temporary walls creating the illusion of a shopping complex. Smoke machines pumped artificial fog through the space. Speakers blared recordings of screaming and chaos. It was disorienting by design. Marcus established the command post in a vehicle outside the main entrance, monitors showing feeds from cameras positioned throughout the facility. Ryan joined him, along with 2 other recruits assigned to intelligence analysis. "Teams, check in," Marcus said into the radio. One by one, they reported ready. Marcus took a breath, then keyed the radio again. "All teams, we are go. Execute with caution. I want constant communication. Nobody plays cowboy. We do this together." Team 1, led by Jennifer, entered through the main entrance, weapons raised, movements precise. The cameras showed them clearing the entry area, calling out "clear" as they moved. Team 2 established perimeter positions, already encountering active civilians fleeing the scene, screening them for threats while directing them to safety. The first shots rang out 3 minutes in. "Contact, contact, shooter in the food court, 2nd floor, multiple hostages visible." Marcus's pulse spiked, but his voice remained steady. "Team 1, hold position. Do not engage unless civilians are in immediate danger." Team 4, "I need eyes on that location. Get me a count of hostages and shooter profile." Ryan was already pulling up the relevant camera feeds, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Whatever his personal issues with Marcus, he was professional when it mattered. "I've got visual," Ryan said. "One shooter, male, positioned behind the counter of a fast food location. I count 6 hostages, all civilians, seated on the floor. Shooter appears agitated. Weapon looks like a handgun, can't confirm type from this angle." "Is he making demands?" "Not that we can hear. He's just pacing, shouting something, but audio's not clear." Marcus studied the screen. The shooter, an academy instructor playing the role, was moving erratically, his weapon waving around. Classic indicators of someone in crisis, not a calculated attack. That changed the approach entirely. "Team 1, I'm sending you coordinates. Approach from the western corridor. Stay concealed. I want to try talking him down before we escalate." Team 3, "How many civilians have you evacuated so far?" Ashley Rodriguez's voice came through. 12 so far, 2 with minor injuries being treated. Continuing sweep of the lower level." "Good. Keep it moving." Team 2, "Status on perimeter?" David Park responded, "Secure. No additional threats identified. We've got a crowd forming behind the barricades, a lot of people trying to get information about family members inside." "Handle it. Compassionate but firm. We can't have civilians compromising the perimeter." Marcus turned to Ryan. "Can you get me audio on the food court?" "Working on it." 30 seconds later, sound crackled through the speakers. The shooter was shouting, his words garbled by emotion and the acoustic chaos of the space. "Told them, don't understand, can't keep doing this." Not threats, not demands, pain. The man was in pain. Marcus made a decision that he knew would be scrutinized in the after-action review. "Team 1, hold position. I'm going in to establish dialogue." Jennifer's voice came back immediately. "Marcus, that's not protocol. You're the commander, you don't—" "I know what protocol says, but that man doesn't need a tactical team right now. He needs someone to listen. I'm going in unarmed, hands visible. If things go bad, you have the green light to intervene." "Marcus, that's an order, Torres." Silence on the radio. Then, "Copy that. We've got your back." Marcus removed his duty belt, his simulated weapon, everything that could be perceived as a threat. He looked at Ryan, who was staring at him like he'd lost his mind. "If this goes wrong," Ryan said quietly, "they're going to crucify you. If I don't try and someone dies, I'll crucify myself. Monitor the situation. If he points that weapon at me, Team 1 moves. Clear?" "Clear." Marcus entered the facility alone, his hands raised, his steps slow and deliberate. The smoke and chaos sounds created a surreal atmosphere, like walking through a nightmare. He could see Team 1 positioned in the shadows, ready to move. Their discipline held. The food court was on the 2nd level, accessible by escalators and stairs. Marcus took the stairs, calling out as he climbed, "My name is Marcus. I'm coming up. I'm not armed. I just want to talk." He reached the 2nd level. The shooter, Instructor Harrison, he realized, was exactly where the cameras had shown him, the hostages huddled nearby. Their fear expertly acted. Harrison's weapon tracked toward Marcus. "Stop right there!" Marcus stopped, hand still raised. "I'm stopped? Thank you for not shooting me. That's a good start." "Who are you?" "I'm Marcus Reed. I'm in training to be a police officer. Today's my final assessment, actually, so you're kind of making my day really complicated." Marcus kept his tone conversational, almost casual. "Mind if I come a little closer? It's hard to talk when we're shouting." Harrison hesitated, then nodded. Marcus took 3 steps forward, still in the open, still vulnerable. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. "Does it matter?" "It does to me. I don't like talking to people without knowing their names. Makes me feel rude." Despite the scenario, Harrison almost smiled. "James, my name is Chemtul." "James, okay. James, I can see you're having a really bad day. Want to tell me about it?" "You wouldn't understand." "Maybe not. But I'm a pretty good listener, and those people on the floor, they're scared. I'm scared, but I don't think you want to hurt anyone, am I right?" Harrison's weapon lowered slightly. I'm tired. So tired of everything." Marcus recognized the script. This was a suicide by cop scenario, designed to test whether recruits could identify and de-escalate that mental health crises. The statistics were grim. A significant percentage of police shootings involved people experiencing mental health emergencies. The Academy wanted officers who could recognize the difference between a threat and a tragedy. "I understand tired," Marcus said softly. "I'm a single dad. My wife died 3 years ago. Some days I'm so tired I can barely stand, but I get up anyway because my son needs me." "Do you have people who need you, James?" I have a daughter. She's 8. "Yeah? My son's 7. What's her name?" "Emma." "Emma, that's a beautiful name. What does Emma love about her dad?" Harrison's weapon lowered further. Behind him, through a gap in the structure, Marcus could see Jennifer and her team in position, but they held, trusting him. She loves when I read to her, before bed. We're working through this fantasy series, really long books, but she doesn't want to stop." "That's special, James. Those moments, they matter. They're what we're fighting for, right? All the exhaustion, all the struggle. It's for those bedtime stories, for knowing that our kids are safe and loved and have a future." "But what if I can't give her that? What if I'm failing her?" Marcus took another step closer, his voice gentle but firm. "You're not failing her by being tired. You're failing her if you give up. And I don't think you want to give up. I think you want help. And that's okay. Needing help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Harrison's weapon dropped to his side. His shoulders sagged. "I don't know what to do anymore." "Right now, you do one thing. You put down the weapon, you let these people go, and you let us get you help, real help. Because Emma needs her dad, and her dad is still in there. I can see him. He's just buried under a lot of pain right now." For a long moment, Harrison stood, frozen. Then slowly, he set the weapon on the counter and raised his hands. Okay, I'm done." Marcus keyed his radio. "Situation resolved. Suspect is compliant. Team 1, move in and secure. Team 3, we need medical assessment for the hostages and the suspect. Nobody gets hurt today." Jennifer's team moved with practiced efficiency, securing Harrison gently. No excessive force, no aggression, just professional control. The hostages were led away to safety. Within minutes, the chaotic scene was organized, controlled, safe. Captain Williams's voice crackled over the command frequency. "All teams, scenario complete. Secure your positions and report to debrief in 20 minutes." Marcus walked back down to the command post, his legs suddenly unsteady as adrenaline drained from his system. Ryan was staring at him with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. "That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen," Ryan said finally. "Probably both." "Why did you do it? You could have just sent in the tactical team. It would have been justified." Marcus looked at the younger man, seeing past the bravado to something more genuine underneath. "Because that man didn't need to be treated like a threat. He needed to be treated like a human being in crisis. And because I knew that if I sent in a team and someone got hurt, I'd have to live with that choice. I'd rather risk myself than risk someone else." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "I've been a real asshole to you." "Yeah, you have." I'm sorry. I was intimidated. You came in here with nothing, no advantages, no connections, and you just kept being better. It made me feel like everything I had didn't matter. Marcus considered that. It matters. Your education matters. Your athletic ability matters. But so does experience. So does perspective. We all bring different things to this job. The question is whether we're smart enough to learn from each other. Ryan nodded slowly. I'd like to try. Learning from you, I mean, if you're willing to teach. I'm willing. The debrief was held in the main auditorium. All 28 recruits assembled along with the instructional staff. Captain Williams stood at the podium, her expression giving nothing away. Today's simulation was designed to test your ability to operate under extreme pressure with incomplete information. You faced a complex crisis scenario with multiple variables and no clear right answer. Some of you performed exceptionally. Some of you made critical errors. We're going to break down every decision, every communication, every choice. This is where you learn. For the next 2 hours, they dissected the scenario. Marcus's decision to go in unarmed was hotly debated. Several instructors argued it was reckless, a violation of command protocol that put him and others at risk. Others, including Sergeant Miller, defended it as exactly the kind of innovative thinking that modern policing required. The traditional approach would have been a tactical entry, Miller said. Probably would have resulted in the scenario ending with the suspect down and possibly hostages injured in the crossfire. Reed recognized what many of you missed. This wasn't an active shooter situation. It was a mental health crisis. He adjusted his approach accordingly, and because of that, everyone walked away. That's the goal. Not glory. Not showing force, saving lives. Captain Williams listened to the debate, then raised her hand for silence. Reed, stand up. Marcus stood, his heart in his throat. Your decision to approach the suspect unarmed was unorthodox and dangerous. It could have resulted in your death and the deaths of the hostages. Do you understand that? Yes, ma'am. It was also exactly the right call for that specific situation. You read the scenario correctly, you adapted your approach, and you achieved the best possible outcome. That said, if you ever pull something like that again without at least notifying your team first, I will personally kick your ass. Clear? Crystal clear, ma'am. Sit down. The debrief continued, covering other aspects of the scenario. Team 2's excellent perimeter control, Team 3's efficient medical triage, communication protocols that could be improved. Jennifer was commended for her tactical positioning and fire discipline. David received praise for his crowd management. Even Ryan, despite his earlier antagonism toward Marcus, was recognized for his rapid intelligence analysis. When it was over, Williams addressed them one final time. You have 1 week left. Final exams, final physical assessments, and then graduation. I'll be honest with you, not all of you will make it. The standards don't change in the final week, but you've come this far. Finish strong. That evening, Marcus sat in his truck in the academy parking lot, too exhausted to drive home immediately. His phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Heard about the simulation. You're either insane or brilliant. Possibly both. Want to talk about it over dinner? My treat. You look like you could use a real meal. Marcus stared at the message. When was the last time someone had taken care of him? When was the last time he'd let them? He texted back, where and when? 7 o'clock, that Italian place on Maple Street, the one with the breadsticks that could be used as weapons. Marcus smiled despite his exhaustion. See you there. He drove home first, finding Daniel building an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets. Mrs. Chen was reading on the chair, her glasses perched on her nose. Dad? Daniel launched himself at Marcus, who caught him with practiced ease. Mrs. Chen said you had your big test today. Did you pass? Won't know for sure until next week, buddy, but I think it went okay. Better than okay, Mrs. Chen said, standing with a knowing smile. I can see it in your face. You did well. Marcus set Daniel down. Mrs. Chen, would you be willing to stay a little longer tonight? I have a dinner meeting. Mrs. Chen's smile widened. A dinner meeting? How professional. Of course I will stay. You go to your meeting, Mr. Reed. After showering and changing into the one decent shirt he owned, Marcus headed to the restaurant. Elena was already there, seated at a corner booth, and when she saw him, Her face lit up in a way that made something warm unfurl in Marcus's chest. "You look exhausted," she said as he slid into the booth. "I am exhausted, but it's the good kind, the kind that means you gave everything you had." They ordered pasta for Elena, chicken parmesan for Marcus, and talked easily about the simulation, about the week ahead, about everything and nothing. The food was excellent, the conversation better. Marcus found himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said eventually, her expression turning serious. "Sure. What happens after graduation? I mean, I know you'll get assigned to a precinct, but what about us? This friendship we've built? I don't want to lose that." Marcus met her eyes. "I don't want to lose it either." "So we won't. We'll make it work. Coffee meetups, phone calls, whatever it takes. Because you and Daniel, you've become important to me. You're important to us too." Elena reached across the table, her hand covering his. "I need you to know something. I'm not trying to replace Sarah. I would never try to do that. But I care about you, about both of you, and I want to be part of your life, whatever that looks like." Marcus looked down at their joined hands, emotion thick in his throat. "Sarah would have liked you. She always said I needed more people in my corner, that I tried to carry too much alone. She sounds like she was wise." She was. She really was. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands still touching, the restaurant's ambient noise a gentle cocoon around them. "1 week," Elena said finally. "1 week until graduation. Then you start your real career, everything you've worked for." "Everything Daniel and I have worked for," Marcus corrected. "None of this happens without him. He's my reason. He's lucky to have you as a father. I'm lucky to have him as a son." The final week of the academy was a blur of last-minute preparations and mounting pressure. Final physical fitness tests pushed recruits to their absolute limits. Academic exams covered everything from constitutional law to traffic code. Practical assessments tested their ability to write reports, conduct interviews, and make split-second judgments. Marcus passed everything. Not just passed, excelled. His firearms qualification was expert level. His physical fitness scores were in the top 5%. His academic performance earned him recognition on the dean's list. Every night, he came home to Daniel and studied more, practiced more, refused to let up even when his body begged for rest. On Thursday evening, 3 days before graduation, Captain Williams called Marcus to her office. "Sit down, Reed." Marcus sat, his mind racing through possibilities. Had he done something wrong? Made some mistake that would cost him everything? Williams pulled out a folder, opening it to reveal Marcus's complete academy file. "I want to show you something. These are your performance metrics compared to the academy average." She slid a sheet across the desk. Physical fitness, 94th percentile. Academics, 96th percentile. Tactical scenarios, 98th percentile. Overall ranking, second in your class. Marcus stared at the numbers, unable to process them. "Second, Jennifer Torres beat you by half a point on the written exams, but that's not why I called you here." Williams leaned forward. "I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've trained hundreds of recruits. Most of them are competent, some are good. A handful are exceptional. You, Reed, are transformative. You don't just follow the rules, you understand why they exist and when they need to be adapted. You don't just execute tactics, you think strategically. You don't just see suspects and victims, you see human beings." "Ma'am, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything yet. I'm offering you a position in the Crisis Intervention Unit after you complete your probationary period. It's a specialized unit that handles mental health emergencies, hostage negotiations, high-risk situations that require de-escalation rather than force. It's demanding, it's emotionally exhausting, and it's exactly the kind of work you're built for. Interested?" Marcus thought about the simulation, about talking Harrison down, about using words instead of weapons. "Very interested, ma'am." "Good. Now get out of my office and go study for your final exam. You've come too far to screw it up in the last 3 days." "Yes, ma'am, and ma'am, thank you." Williams almost smiled. "Don't thank me. Earn it." Marcus walked out of the office in a daze. His phone buzzed immediately, a text from Jennifer. "Heard you got called to Williams's office. Everything okay?" Marcus texted back, "Better than okay." Tell you later. That night, after putting Daniel to bed, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with a beer he'd been saving for a special occasion. He looked around their tiny apartment, the peeling paint, the secondhand furniture, the cramped space that had been their home through the hardest years of his life. Soon, very soon, they'd be able to move. Get a place with a real bedroom for Daniel, maybe a small yard. Nothing fancy, but better. Safe, stable. His phone rang. Elena. Hey, he answered. Hey yourself. I heard through the grapevine that Williams offered you a position in CIU. That true? News travels fast. This is an academy. Gossip is our primary export. Marcus, that's incredible. CIU is prestigious. They only take the best. I haven't even graduated yet. Feels premature to celebrate. You're going to graduate, you're going to excel, and then you're going to change lives because that's what you do. Elena paused. I'm proud of you. I hope you know that. I'm starting to believe I deserve to be proud of myself. That's growth. I like it. Get some sleep, Reed. Big days ahead. You too, Carter. And Elena? Yeah. Thank you for believing in me when I wasn't sure I believed in myself. Always. That's what friends do. After hanging up, Marcus checked on Daniel one more time. His son slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling with the trust of a child who knew he was safe, who knew his father would protect him from whatever monsters lurked in the dark. We're almost there, little man, Marcus whispered. Just a few more days. The final exam was on Friday morning. 3 hours of comprehensive testing covering every aspect of police work they'd studied. Marcus worked through it methodically, second-guessing nothing, trusting the knowledge he'd built over 12 grueling weeks. When he finished, he handed his exam to Sergeant Miller, who accepted it without comment. Walking out of the exam room, Marcus found most of his class waiting in the hallway, their faces showing varying degrees of stress and relief. How'd it go? Jennifer asked. Either really well or really badly. Won't know until they grade it. David Park laughed. That's the most honest answer I've heard all day. Most people are either certain they aced it or certain they failed. You're the only one acknowledging the uncertainty. I've learned to live with uncertainty. Comes with the territory. Ryan approached, his expression sheepish. Hey, Marcus, some of us are going out tonight. Last Friday before graduation. You should come. Marcus hesitated. He'd never been invited to their social gatherings before. I've got my son. Bring him, Ryan said quickly. We're just going to the arcade and then grabbing pizza. Kid-friendly. My treat. It's the least I can do, after everything. Marcus looked at the group, Jennifer, David, Ashley, Ryan, and several others. They were waiting, genuinely wanting him there. When had that changed? When had he gone from outsider to one of them? All right, Marcus said. We'll be there. That evening, Marcus and Daniel joined the group at the arcade. Daniel was initially shy, clinging to Marcus's side, but within 10 minutes he was playing air hockey with David and laughing like they'd been friends forever. Marcus stood back, watching his son be a kid, something Daniel didn't get to do often enough. He's great, Jennifer said, appearing beside Marcus. You've done an amazing job with him. I've done my best. Some days that feels like enough. Other days you wonder if you're screwing it all up. I get it. My mom raised me alone after my dad split. She had the same doubts. But you know what I remember? Not the times we struggled. I remember that she showed up. Every day, no matter how hard it was, she showed up. That's what Daniel will remember about you. Marcus watched Daniel score a goal in air hockey, his son's triumphant shout echoing through the arcade. I hope you're right. Later, over pizza, the group swapped academy stories, laughing about shared miseries and small victories. Ryan did an impression of Sergeant Miller that was so accurate everyone nearly choked on their food. Ashley shared her terror during the driving course. Jennifer admitted she'd cried after failing her first tactical scenario. Daniel sat next to Marcus, eating pepperoni pizza and soaking in the camaraderie, his eyes bright with happiness. At one point, he leaned over and whispered, Dad, are these your friends? Yeah, buddy, these are my friends. I'm glad. You deserve friends. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds came wisdom that could shatter you. Sunday arrived, graduation day. Marcus dressed in his best clothes, a suit he'd bought secondhand and had altered to fit. He picked up Daniel, who wore his own miniature suit, a gift from Elena that had arrived with a note. Every gentleman needs a proper suit for important occasions. They drove to the academy together, Daniel bouncing with excitement in the passenger seat. "You're going to be a real police officer today." "If I pass graduation, yes." "You'll pass. You always do good at everything." The blind faith of childhood. Marcus hoped desperately not to disappoint it. The ceremony was held in the main auditorium, families filling the seats while recruits assembled backstage. Marcus could hear the crowd, the anticipation, the weight of the moment pressing down. Elena found him before the ceremony started. "You look terrified," she said. "I am terrified." "Good. That means you understand what this means. You ready?" Marcus thought about the journey that had brought him here. The loss, the struggle, the endless nights of doubt and determination. He thought about Daniel waiting in the audience, about the future he was building for both of them. "Yeah," he said, "I'm ready." The auditorium lights dimmed as the ceremony began, and Marcus took his place in line with the other recruits. 28 of them stood in alphabetical order, each representing 12 weeks of sacrifice and transformation. He could feel the nervous energy radiating off the people around him, could hear the quick breaths and shuffling feet that betrayed their anxiety despite their rigid postures. Jennifer stood 2 spots ahead of him, her spine straight as a rifle barrel. Even Ryan Cole standing near the front had lost his usual swagger, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. The processional music started and they marched into the auditorium in formation, their boots striking the floor in synchronized rhythm. The crowd rose to their feet, applause washing over the recruits like a wave. Marcus scanned the audience as he walked, searching for Daniel. There, 3rd row. His son standing on his chair despite Mrs. Chen's gentle attempts to make him sit, waving frantically with both hands, his face split by a grin so wide it could have lit the whole building. Next to them sat Elena, elegant in a navy dress, her eyes already glistening with tears she was trying to blink away. When she caught Marcus looking, she mouthed 2 words, "So proud." Captain Williams stood at the podium waiting for the recruits to take their seats before she began. The auditorium fell silent, hundreds of people holding their collective breath. Distinguished guests, family members, friends, and most importantly, our graduating recruits. We gather here today to recognize an extraordinary achievement. The men and women before you began this journey 12 weeks ago as individuals with a dream. Today, they stand before you as police officers, sworn to serve and protect, ready to face the challenges that await them in the field. Williams paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembled recruits. This class faced one of our most rigorous training cycles in Academy history. We increased the physical standards, elevated the academic requirements, and implemented scenario-based training that pushed each recruit to their absolute limit. We did this not to break you, but to forge you into something stronger, something this community needs. Marcus felt the weight of those words settle over him. Stronger. He'd spent his entire life being strong out of necessity, carrying burdens that would have crushed lesser people. But this was different. This was strength with purpose, strength with direction, strength in service of something beyond himself. "In a moment, I will call each of you forward to receive your badge and certificate," Williams continued. "But before I do, I want to share something with you. When I started this job 15 years ago, I believed that good policing was about following procedures, maintaining order, enforcing the law. And those things matter. But over the years, I've learned that great policing is about something more fundamental. It's about seeing the humanity in every person you encounter. It's about having the wisdom to know when to be firm and when to be compassionate. It's about understanding that your badge gives you authority, but your character determines whether you deserve it." She let that sink in before continuing. This class embodied those principles in ways that surprised even our most experienced instructors. You challenged our assumptions. You showed us that innovation and tradition can coexist. You proved that diversity of experience strengthens rather than weakens a unit. You're going to be excellent officers, and this community is fortunate to have you. The applause was thunderous. Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion he couldn't quite name. Pride, maybe. Relief. Hope. All of it tangled together into something overwhelming. Williams began calling names. Each recruit walked across the stage, shook hands with the academy director, received their badge and certificate, and crossed to the other side transformed. No longer recruits. Officers now. Ashley Rodriguez, Ashley walked with her head high, her family screaming her name from the back row, her younger siblings waving homemade signs. Marcus smiled, watching her receive her badge with trembling hands. Ryan Cole. Ryan's journey across the stage was confident, but Marcus noticed something different in his expression. The arrogance had tempered into something more grounded. When Ryan shook Williams's hand, there was genuine respect in the gesture. His family erupted in applause, his father, a former officer himself, standing with military precision. David Park. David's grandmother, who had to be in her 80s, stood and cheered so loudly that the entire auditorium laughed with delight. David grinned, accepting his badge with a bow toward his family that made them cheer even harder. Marcus Reed. For a moment, Marcus couldn't move. His name hung in the air, and the reality of it crashed over him like a physical force. This was real. This was happening. He stood, his legs steadier than he'd expected, and walked toward the stage. The distance felt infinite and instantaneous simultaneously. When he reached Captain Williams, she held out his badge, the silver gleaming under the lights. "Officer Reed," she said quietly, meant only for him. "You earned every bit of this. Make us proud." "I will, ma'am." He took the badge, the weight of it solid and real in his palm. 20 years of struggle, 3 years of grief, 12 weeks of the hardest work he'd ever done, all condensed into this small piece of metal that represented everything he'd fought for. Williams handed him his certificate, shook his hand with a grip that conveyed respect, and Marcus walked across the stage to the other side. From the audience, he heard Daniel's voice cutting through the applause. "That's my dad! That's my dad!" Marcus looked out at his son, at Elena beside him wiping tears from her eyes, at Mrs. Chen nodding with quiet satisfaction, and something inside him that had been clenched tight for years finally loosened. They'd made it. Against every odd, through every obstacle, they'd made it. Jennifer Torres. Jennifer walked with military precision, her posture perfect, her face composed. But when Williams handed her the badge, Marcus saw her hands shake just slightly. She'd earned the top academic ranking in the class, a distinction that would follow her throughout her career. Her family's pride was palpable, even from across the auditorium. The ceremony continued until all 28 recruits had received their badges. They stood together, no longer divided by background or circumstance, united by shared purpose and the oath they were about to take. Williams raised her right hand. "Please stand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear." 28 voices in unison, Marcus is among them. "That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state." The words felt sacred in his mouth, each syllable a promise he intended to keep. "That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same." Marcus thought about Daniel, about the world he wanted his son to grow up in, about the kind of man he wanted to be. "That I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter." He thought about Sarah, wishing she could see this, knowing somehow that she would have believed in him every step of the way. "So help me." And the phrase hung unfinished, secular, and solemn, a promise witnessed by everyone present. The auditorium erupted, families rushed forward, the formal ceremony dissolving into joyful chaos. Marcus barely made it off the stage before Daniel collided with him, launching himself into his father's arms with enough force to make Marcus stumble backward. "You did it! You did it! You're a police officer!" Marcus held his son tight, Daniel's small body vibrating with excitement and pride. "We did it, buddy. This is yours as much as mine." Elena approached more slowly, her mascara running despite her best efforts. "Officer Reed has a nice ring to it. Sounds weird, like I'm going to turn around expecting to see someone else. You'll get used to it." She reached out, her fingers touching the badge still clutched in Marcus's hand. "Can I see?" He handed it to her, watching as she examined it with reverence. "It's beautiful. Everything you worked for, right here." "Not everything, but it's a start." Mrs. Chen appeared, her eyes bright behind her glasses. "Mr. Reed, I knew when I first met you that you were special. Today proves me right. Thank you, Mrs. Chen, for everything. I couldn't have done this without you." She waved away his gratitude with characteristic modesty. "You did the hard work. I just watched a wonderful boy while his father became a hero." "I'm not a hero." "Not yet," she said with a knowing smile. But you will be. The reception was held in the Academy's main hall, tables laden with food and decorated with blue and gold streamers. Recruits mingled with their families, the atmosphere electric with celebration and relief. Marcus found himself surrounded by his classmates, people who had started as strangers, and somewhere along the way had become something more. "Reed," Ryan approached with several others in tow. "We're taking photos. You're in this one whether you like it or not." They gathered together, the entire graduating class, arms around each other's shoulders, badges pinned to their chests, smiles genuine and hard-won. Someone's parent snapped the photo, capturing a moment that would sit on desks and mantels for years to come, a reminder of what they'd accomplished together. David Park pulled Marcus aside as the group dispersed. "So I heard Williams offered you CIU. That's incredible, man. How does everyone know everything in this place?" "Small academy, big mouths," David grinned. "But seriously, that's a huge opportunity. Those positions usually go to officers with years of experience, not fresh graduates. I haven't even finished my probationary period yet. Plenty of time to screw it up." "You won't. You're going to be great at it." David hesitated, then continued. "I wanted to thank you for being patient with all of us, for not letting Ryan's bullshit or anyone else's doubts make you bitter. You could have come in here angry at the world for everything you've been through, but you didn't. You stayed kind. That's rare." Marcus didn't know what to say to that, so he just gripped David's shoulder. "We all got through this together. That's what matters." Jennifer found him near the refreshment table, balancing a plate of food she clearly didn't want. "Too nervous to eat?" "Completely. But my mom insists I need to keep my strength up for the celebration tonight. Apparently she's invited the entire extended family over, and I need energy to survive the questioning." Marcus smiled. "What kind of questioning?" "Oh, when are you getting married? When are you giving me grandchildren? Why didn't you become a doctor like your cousin? The usual." "Sounds exhausting." "Terrifying is more accurate." Jennifer set down the plate. "But worth it, because I get to tell them I'm second in my academy class. I've got a job I actually care about, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." She paused. "You beat me on the tactical assessments, If it hadn't been for those written exams, you would have been first. You earned that ranking. Don't diminish it." "I'm not. I'm just saying you pushed me to be better. Competition made us both sharper." She smiled. "Where are you getting assigned for your probationary period?" "District 7, downtown precinct. You?" "District 3, residential neighborhoods, lower crime rate. Probably for the best. My mom would have a heart attack if they sent me anywhere too dangerous right out of the gate." They talked for a while about their assignments, about the training officers they'd be paired with, about the reality that was setting in now that graduation was over. This was real. In 2 days, Marcus would report to District 7 for his first shift. The academy had been intense, but it had also been controlled, structured, safe. The streets wouldn't be any of those things. Elena appeared at his elbow as Jennifer wandered off to rejoin her family. "You look contemplative. What's on your mind?" "Just thinking about what comes next. Whether I'm actually ready for this." "You're ready. You know how I know?" "How?" "Because you're asking the question. The officers who fail are the ones who think they know everything. You're humble enough to doubt yourself, and that's going to keep you sharp." She glanced around the crowded hall. "This is overwhelming, isn't it? All these people, all this noise." "Little bit, yeah. Want to step outside for a minute, get some air?" They slipped out through a side door into the cool afternoon, the sounds of celebration muted behind them. The academy grounds were quiet, peaceful in a way Marcus had never experienced during training. No instructors barking orders, no recruits running drills, just empty space and potential. "I've been thinking about something," Elena said, leaning against the building's brick wall. "About what happens now. You're going to be working crazy hours, dealing with stressful situations, seeing things that are going to be hard to process. You're going to need support. I've got Daniel and Mrs. Chen, and you, if the offer still stands." "It stands. It will always stand. But Marcus, I want to make sure you understand something." She turned to face him fully, her expression serious. "I care about you. Not just as someone I helped through the academy, not just as a friend. I care about you in a way that's complicated and probably inconvenient and definitely terrifying for me to admit." Marcus's breath caught. "Elena, you don't have to say anything right now. I know you're still processing Sarah's loss. I know you've got a million things on your plate. I'm not asking for anything to change immediately. I just need you to know that I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'd like to see where this could go." For a long moment, Marcus couldn't speak. The weight of her words, the vulnerability in her eyes, the future she was offering. It was too much and not enough simultaneously. "Sarah used to tell me that life was too short to waste time being afraid," he said finally. "That if you felt something real, you should honor it instead of running from it. I spent 3 years running from everything except Daniel and survival. I think I'm tired of running." Elena's eyes widened slightly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I care about you too. I'm saying I'm terrified of screwing this up, of not being enough, of all the ways this could go wrong. But I'm also saying I want to try. If you're patient with me while I figure out how to do this." She smiled, slow and genuine and beautiful. "I can be patient. I've waited this long, haven't I?" The door burst open, and Daniel appeared, his face flushed with excitement. "Dad, they're cutting a cake, a huge cake with a police badge on it. Come on." Marcus laughed, the moment with Elena crystallizing into something he could carry with him. "Lead the way, little man." They returned to the celebration, but something had shifted. The future felt less daunting, less solitary. For the first time since Sarah died, Marcus allowed himself to imagine a life that included more than just survival, a life with possibility. The rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulations and photographs, of proud speeches and emotional goodbyes to instructors who had pushed them to their limits. Captain Williams made the rounds, speaking briefly with each graduate, her words calibrated to each individual's strengths and areas for growth. When she reached Marcus, she pulled him aside. "Your training officer for probation is Sergeant Mike Harrison. Yes, the same Harrison who played the hostage scenario. He requested you specifically." "Ma'am?" "After the simulation, he told me you showed more natural instinct for crisis intervention than officers with 10 years of experience. He wants to mentor you, make sure you develop those skills properly. Consider it an honor. Harrison doesn't request probationary officers, ever." Marcus felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with pride. "I won't disappoint him." "See that you don't. And Reed, your first few months are going to be hard. You're going to see things that shake you. You're going to make mistakes. Don't let either of those things convince you that you don't belong. You do. Remember that." As evening approached, families began departing, the celebration winding down into exhausted contentment. Marcus gathered Daniel and their belongings, said his goodbyes to classmates with promises to stay in touch, and headed toward the parking lot. Elena walked with them, her hand occasionally brushing against Marcus's in a way that felt intentional and electric. "What's the plan for tonight?" she asked. "Pizza and a movie. Daniel's choice. Probably something with superheroes saving the world." "Sounds perfect." Elena crouched down to Daniel's level. "You were very patient today, sitting through all those speeches. You're a good kid." Daniel beamed. "Elena, are you going to come have pizza with us?" She glanced up at Marcus, a question in her eyes. He nodded. "I would love to," Elena said. They ended up at a small pizza place near Marcus's apartment, the kind of neighborhood spot with checkered tablecloths and a jukebox that still played actual records. Daniel insisted on sitting in a booth, positioning himself strategically so Elena sat next to Marcus instead of across from them. "You're not subtle, buddy," Marcus said. "I don't know what that means," Daniel replied innocently, though his grin suggested otherwise. The pizza was good, the conversation easy, and for a few hours Marcus allowed himself to simply exist in the moment. No worrying about the future, no dwelling on the past, just his son's laughter and Elena's presence and the simple joy of sharing a meal with people he cared about. After dinner, they drove back to the apartment. Marcus carried a sleeping Daniel up the 3 flights of stairs, Elena following quietly behind. The apartment was exactly as they'd left it that morning, small, cramped, evidence of their financial struggles in every corner. But it was home, and Marcus had learned that home wasn't about square footage or fancy furniture. It was about the people inside it. He tucked Daniel into bed, his son barely stirring, exhaustion finally claiming him. Marcus stood in the doorway for a moment, watching Daniel sleep, the badge still pinned to his chest feeling heavier than it had during the ceremony. "You're going to be great at this," Elena said softly from behind him. "I hope so. He deserves a father who's great at something." "He already has one." The job is just the job, Marcus. What makes you great is how you love him, how you show up every single day, no matter how hard it gets. The badge doesn't change that. Marcus pulled Daniel's door partially closed and turned to face Elena in the narrow hallway. Thank you. For today. For all of it. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know. But I want to. They stood close in the small space, the air between them charged with everything spoken and unspoken. Elena reached up, her hand resting against his chest, right over his heart. Your heart is racing, she said. Yeah, it does that around you. She smiled. Good to know I'm not the only one. Marcus covered her hand with his own. This scares me. Not you specifically, just letting someone in. Risking this. What if I'm not ready? What if I... Marcus. Elena's voice was gentle, but firm. Stop catastrophizing. We don't have to figure out everything tonight. We can take this slow, one day at a time, one coffee meeting at a time, one pizza dinner at a time. Until eventually, it doesn't feel scary anymore. It just feels right. One day at a time, Marcus repeated. I can do that. I know you can. You've been doing hard things one day at a time your whole life. This is just a different kind of hard, the good kind. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, a gesture both innocent and full of promise. I should go. Let you rest. You've got a big week ahead. Marcus walked her to the door, reluctant to let the day end, but knowing she was right. Text me when you get home? Always do. After she left, Marcus sat on the couch in the dark apartment, his badge in his hand, turning it over and over. Officer Marcus Reed. It still didn't feel real. He thought about calling someone, sharing the news, but everyone who mattered had already been there to see it. His phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Group chat for the graduating class. Ryan set it up. Yes, Ryan, I know. We're all shocked. Check your messages. Marcus opened the group chat to find a flurry of messages, photos from the day, inside jokes already forming, plans for a 1-month reunion. Ryan had indeed created it, his first message surprisingly sincere. Couldn't have made it through without you all. Proud to serve alongside you. David had responded, Who are you and what have you done with Ryan Cole? Ashley. Character growth. We love to see it. Jennifer. Don't get too sentimental. We've still got to survive probation. Marcus typed a message. Thanks for this. See you all on the streets. The responses came quickly, a chorus of support and camaraderie that made Marcus realize just how much had changed over 12 weeks. He'd come to the academy alone, convinced he had to be, and somewhere along the way he'd found a community. The weekend passed in a strange limbo between celebration and anticipation. Marcus took Daniel to the park, played basketball with a worn ball that had seen better days, talked about school and friends, and the future that suddenly seemed brighter than it had in years. When you're a police officer, will you have a gun? Daniel asked, dribbling the ball with improving coordination. I will. It's part of the job. Will you have to use it? Marcus stopped, crouching down to his son's level. I hope not. The best police officers are the ones who never have to use their weapons because they find other ways to solve problems. That's what I'm going to try to be. Like how you talked to that man during your test. Elena told me about it. Exactly like that. Words first. Always words first. Daniel nodded seriously, processing this information with the gravity of a child trying to understand complex adult concepts. I think you'll be good at that. You always talk to me when I'm upset instead of just getting mad. The observation hit Marcus harder than Daniel could have known. That's because getting mad doesn't fix anything. Understanding does. On Sunday evening, Marcus laid out his uniform for Monday's first shift, pressing the creases with meticulous care. The dark blue fabric was stiff and new, the badge gleaming on the chest. He tried it on, standing in front of the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the man looking back at him. On your hat? Marcus placed the cap on your hat? Marcus placed the cap on Daniel's head, where it immediately slipped down over his eyes. Daniel giggled, pushing it up, striking a serious pose. How do I look? Like you're going to run this city someday. Elena texted that evening. First day tomorrow. How are you feeling? Marcus responded. Terrified. Excited. Terrified again. Normal response. You're going to do great. Call me after your shift if you want to talk about it. I will. Thank you for existing. Weirdest compliment I've ever received, but I'll take it. Get some sleep, Officer Reed. Sleep proved elusive. Marcus lay in the darkness, listening to the familiar sounds of the neighborhood. Distant sirens, arguing neighbors, the rumble of the bus on the corner. Sounds that had been the soundtrack to struggle for so long. Tomorrow, he'd be on the other side of those sirens, responding instead of listening. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on him. But underneath the fear was something else. Purpose. For the first time in his life, Marcus was walking towards something instead of running from it. He was choosing a path instead of having one forced upon him by circumstance. That made all the difference. When the alarm went off at 4:30 Monday morning, Marcus was already awake. He dressed in the darkness, moving quietly to avoid waking Daniel. In the kitchen, he found a note stuck to the coffee maker in Daniel's careful handwriting. Good luck, Dad. You're the best. Love, Daniel. The misspelling of your made Marcus smile even as his eyes stung with tears. He folded the note carefully and tucked it into his wallet, right next to the photo of Sarah he still carried. The drive to District 7 felt longer than it should have. Every mile weighted with significance. The precinct building was old brick, 3 stories of municipal architecture that had seen better days but still stood solid and imposing. Marcus parked in the lot designated for officers, his truck looking distinctly out of place among the newer vehicles. Inside, the precinct hummed with activity. Officers coming off night shift filed reports, looking exhausted and ready for bed. Day shift assembled in the briefing room, voices overlapping in conversation Marcus couldn't quite follow. He felt suddenly, acutely out of place, an imposter wearing a uniform he hadn't yet earned through action. You Reed? Marcus turned to find a man in his mid-40s, built like someone who'd been strong in his youth and had maintained just enough of it to remain formidable. His face was weathered, eyes sharp and assessing. The nameplate said, Harrison. Yes, sir. Officer Reed. Drop the sir. I'm Mike when it's just us. Harrison when we're on duty. You ready for this? I think so. Harrison smiled, the expression transforming his stern features. Honest answer. I like that. Most rookies either lie and say they're completely ready, or they fall apart admitting they're not. You're somewhere in the middle, which is probably closest to the truth. He gestured toward the briefing room. Come on, time to meet the circus. The briefing room was cramped and smelled like burned coffee and decades of institutional neglect. Officers filled the worn chairs, some looking alert, others clearly running on fumes and caffeine. Marcus took a seat near the back with Harrison, who nodded toward a grizzled sergeant at the front. That's Sergeant Kelly, runs day shift. Fair but doesn't suffer fools, pay attention. Kelly called the room to order with a voice that had probably stopped riots single-handedly. All right, shut it. We've got ground to cover and I want everyone on the street by 0600. He ran through the overnight incidents, areas of concern, known active warrants, and stolen vehicle reports with efficient precision. Marcus absorbed it all, committing details to memory the way he'd learned during academy training. But this wasn't simulation anymore. These were real crimes, real victims, real stakes. Last thing, Kelly said, glancing at a roster. We've got a rookie with us today. Reed, stand up. Every head in the room turned. Marcus stood, feeling the weight of their assessment, their judgment, their curiosity about whether he'd make it or wash out like so many before him. Reed's out of the latest academy class. Second in his class academically, top marks on tactical scenarios. Harrison requested him for probation, which should tell you something because Harrison hasn't requested a probie in 8 years. Don't haze him too badly. Kelly's expression suggested this was probably futile advice. Anything you want to say, Reed? Marcus cleared his throat. Just that I'm here to learn and serve. I appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you. A few officers nodded approvingly. Others remained skeptical. One muttered something about Academy pretty boys that wasn't quite loud enough to be a direct challenge, but loud enough to be heard. Sit down, Kelly said. Harrison, keep him alive. Dismissed. The room cleared quickly, officers heading to their assigned vehicles with the efficiency of long practice. Harrison led Marcus to the equipment room, where they checked out radios, flashlights, extra ammunition, and a shotgun that would be secured in the patrol car. First rule, Harrison said as they walked toward the garage. Your equipment keeps you alive. You treat it with respect, you maintain it religiously, you know exactly where everything is without thinking. Second rule, trust your training, but don't be rigid. The street will teach you things the academy couldn't. Be flexible enough to learn. Third rule, I've got your back, but you've got to earn my trust. That starts today and continues every single shift. Clear? Clear? Their patrol car was a newer Ford Interceptor, black and white with enough dents and scrapes to tell stories Harrison would probably share eventually. Marcus climbed into the passenger seat, the reality of the moment hitting him with physical force. This was it. No more simulation, no more controlled environments. Real policing started now. Harrison pulled out of the garage, the radio already crackling with calls across the district. We're Unit 7, David 3. Most days we'll handle routine calls, traffic stops, community checks. Sometimes it gets spicy. Today I want you observing. Watch how I interact with people, how I assess situations, how I make decisions. Ask questions, but not during critical moments. Save those for after. Understood? Understood. They drove through the district as dawn broke over the city, Harrison providing running commentary on the neighborhoods, the problem areas, the community resources. Marcus watched everything, cataloging details, noting the subtle shifts in Harrison's posture and tone as they moved from commercial districts to residential areas to the rougher edges where poverty and desperation wore the buildings down to their bones. See that corner? Harrison pointed to an intersection where several people loitered despite the early hour. Drug market. Open secret. We can't arrest our way out of it, so we manage it. Keep the violence down. Keep it from spilling into the residential blocks. Try to build enough trust that when something serious goes down, people will actually talk to us. Does that work? Sometimes. Street policing is about playing the long game. You're not going to save the world on one shift, but you might make it slightly better for someone. That's enough. Their first call came 20 minutes into the shift. Domestic disturbance, apartment complex on the east side. Harrison acknowledged the call, his demeanor shifting subtly from instructional to operational. Domestics are dangerous, he said as they drove. People are emotional, often intoxicated, sometimes armed. You don't know what you're walking into until you're in it. We go in calm, professional, and aware. You stay behind me, you watch the hands, you cover my angles. Don't try to be a hero. They arrived at a tired apartment building, paint peeling, windows covered with security bars. A woman stood outside smoking, her arms crossed defensively. They're in 2B, she said without preamble. Been screaming at each other for an hour. Woke up the whole building. Thank you, ma'am, Harrison said. We'll handle it. They climbed the stairs. Marcus's heart rate elevated but controlled. The sounds of arguing filtered through the door of 2B, a man and woman's voices raised in bitter conflict. Harrison knocked firmly. Police, open the door, please. The arguing stopped. Footsteps approached, and the door opened to reveal a man in his 30s, disheveled and clearly angry. Behind him, a woman stood with her arms wrapped around herself, mascara running down her face. What do you want? The man demanded. We received a call about a disturbance. We need to make sure everyone's safe. Can we come in and talk? We're fine. Just a disagreement. Harrison's eyes were already scanning the apartment, looking for weapons, signs of violence, threat indicators. Sir, I appreciate that, but we need to speak with both of you separately. Standard procedure. May we come in? The man hesitated, then stepped aside. Harrison entered smoothly, Marcus following, positioning himself to maintain visual contact with both subjects while staying out of Harrison's way. Ma'am, are you hurt? Harrison asked gently. No, we just had a fight. It's nothing. But her body language told a different story. She was scared, trying to de-escalate, protecting herself and possibly the man from consequences she feared more than the current situation. Harrison addressed the man. I need you to step outside with Officer Reed for a moment. We're going to talk separately, make sure we understand what happened. This is bullshit. You can't just... Sir, I'm asking politely. Please step outside with Officer Reed. Marcus met the man's eyes, keeping his expression neutral but firm. After a tense moment, the man complied, walking into the hallway with exaggerated reluctance. Marcus followed, pulling the door partially closed behind them. What's your name? Marcus asked, keeping his voice even. Derek, and this is harassment. Derek, I understand you're upset, but we got a call, and we have to respond. Can you tell me what happened tonight? We had an argument about money, about her spending. It got loud. That's all. Marcus observed Derek carefully. No visible injuries, no signs of intoxication, but his hands were clenched into fists, his jaw tight with barely controlled anger. Did the argument get physical at all? No, I don't hit women. What kind of man do you think I am? I don't think anything, Derek. I'm just asking questions. Did she hit you? What? No, nobody hit anybody. We just yelled. Inside the apartment, Marcus could hear Harrison's calm voice talking with the woman. The conversation was too quiet to make out words, but the tone suggested he was building rapport, creating space for truth. Marcus kept Derek talking, asking about work, about stress, about the relationship. It was a technique they'd learned at the academy. Keep subjects engaged, assess their mental state, watch for inconsistencies. Derek was angry, but not violent, frustrated, but not dangerous. At least not in this moment. Harrison emerged from the apartment, nodding to Marcus. Derek, you can go back inside, but I need you to understand something. If we get called back here tonight, if there's any indication this situation escalates, someone's going to jail. We clear? Yeah, we're clear. Back in the patrol car, Harrison exhaled slowly. That woman has a bruise on her upper arm, fresh, probably from tonight. She swears she bumped into the door frame. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But I can't arrest him based on a maybe, and she's not willing to press charges. So we just leave? We documented the call. I gave her a domestic violence resource card with hotline numbers. I told her we'd do welfare checks. That's all we can do unless she's ready to move forward. Harrison looked at Marcus. This job is full of situations where you can't fix everything. You do what you can, you plant seeds, you hope they grow. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. The rest of the morning brought a steady stream of calls. A noise complaint that turned out to be construction workers starting early. A welfare check on an elderly man whose daughter couldn't reach him by phone. They found him fine, just hard of hearing. A shoplifting report at a convenience store where the suspect was long gone. During a lull, they stopped for coffee at a diner where Harrison clearly knew everyone. The waitress, a woman named Marie with kind eyes and quick hands, poured their coffee without asking. New partner, Mike? Training a probie. Marcus Reed, meet Marie. She makes the best pie in the district and has saved my sanity more times than I can count. Marie studied Marcus with open curiosity. You look older than most rookies. I'm 30. Came to this later than most. Good. Maybe you've got some sense then. Mike, keep him alive, would you? I'm tired of meeting new officers every few months because you keep breaking them. Harrison laughed. I don't break them. The job does. I just speed up the process so they wash out during probation instead of after 5 years when they've got a mortgage and kids. They sat at the counter, and Harrison talked about the reality of street policing. The paperwork that consumed half your shift, the political pressures that sometimes contradicted good police work, the emotional toll of seeing humanity at its worst day after day. You've got a kid, right? Harrison asked. Yeah, Daniel, he's 7. That's going to be your anchor. When this job gets dark, when you see things that make you question people, that kid will remind you why it matters. My daughter's 16 now, but when I come home from a really bad shift, I still check on her. Remind myself that there's good in the world worth protecting. How do you handle it? The bad shifts? Harrison stirred his coffee thoughtfully. Honestly, some days better than others. I've got a good support system. My wife, other officers who get it, a therapist I see monthly. Yeah, therapy. Don't look surprised. This job will mess you up if you don't deal with the trauma. The academy probably told you to be tough, compartmentalize, all that toxic masculinity bullshit. Forget that. You feel things. You process them. You ask for help when you need it. That's how you survive 20 years instead of washing out after 5. Their radios crackled. Robbery in progress, convenience store 4 blocks away, armed suspect. Harrison was on his feet instantly, throwing money on the counter. Let's go! They ran to the patrol car, Harrison driving with controlled urgency, lights and sirens cutting through traffic. Marcus's training kicked in automatically, checking his equipment, mentally reviewing robbery response protocols, managing his breathing to keep calm. When we get there, you stay behind me, Harrison said, his voice tight with focus. This is going live and I need you sharp but cautious. Acknowledge? Acknowledged. They arrived to find 2 other units already on scene, officers taking cover behind their vehicles, weapons drawn. The store's front window was shattered, and inside movement was visible. Harrison keyed his radio. 7 David 3 on scene. What's the situation? Suspect still inside with at least one hostage. He's armed with what looks like a 9mm, fired 2 shots, unknown if anyone's hit. Marcus felt his pulse spike but kept his breathing steady. This was real. This was what every scenario at the academy had been preparing him for, except now the consequences were genuine. Harrison positioned their vehicle to provide additional cover and visual angles. Reed, you're on perimeter security. Watch for the suspect trying to exit through the back or side. If you see him, you call it out. You don't engage unless civilian lives are immediately threatened. Clear? Clear. Marcus moved to his assigned position, every sense heightened. He could hear Harrison coordinating with the other officers, someone calling for a crisis negotiator, someone else requesting additional backup. The training had prepared him for the tactics, but not for the weight of real fear, real danger. The standoff lasted 40 minutes. Marcus maintained his position, watching, waiting, his weapon ready but not raised. Inside the store, negotiations were happening, though Marcus couldn't hear the details. His job was simple: hold the perimeter, don't let the suspect escape. Then movement at the side door. Marcus's hand went to his weapon as a figure emerged, not the suspect, but a terrified teenager, hands raised, stumbling into the alley. Civilian escaping, south side! Marcus called into his radio, holstering his weapon and moving to intercept the teen. You're safe, come to me. The kid, couldn't he be more than 16, ran toward Marcus, sobbing. Marcus guided him behind cover, checking quickly for injuries. Are you hurt? No, he let me go. He said he just wanted money. He didn't want to hurt anyone. How many people are still inside? Just the cashier, an older lady. He's got her at the register. Marcus relayed this information over the radio. Harrison's voice came back. Good work, Reed. Keep the witness secure. The teenager was shaking, adrenaline and shock overwhelming him. Marcus kept him talking, kept him focused. The same techniques he'd learned for managing Daniel's anxiety applied in a radically different context. What's your name? Travis. Okay, Travis. You did great. You stayed calm. You got out safe. Now I need you to stay here with me until this is over. Can you do that? Travis nodded, his breathing gradually slowing. Minutes later, the suspect emerged from the front entrance, hands raised, weapon dropped inside. Officers moved in immediately, taking him into custody with professional efficiency. The cashier was led out moments after, shaken but unharmed. Harrison approached Marcus's position. Solid work keeping that witness calm. How are you holding up? I'm good. Adrenaline's high, but I'm good. That's normal. It'll crash later. When it does, don't fight it. Let yourself process. Harrison clapped Marcus's shoulder. First real incident. You kept your head, followed protocol, didn't do anything stupid. That's more than some officers managed their entire probation. They spent the next 2 hours at the scene, securing evidence, taking statements, coordinating with detectives. Marcus watched Harrison work, noting how he balanced authority with compassion, how he talked to witnesses with patience, how he treated even the suspect with professional respect. Back at the precinct for their lunch break, several officers approached Marcus with varying degrees of approval. The earlier skepticism had shifted slightly. He'd been tested and hadn't failed. Not bad for a first day, one officer said, a woman named Chen who'd been on the perimeter with them. Most rookies freeze or overreact. You didn't either. Just tried to remember my training. Training gets you started. Instinct keeps you alive. Seems like you've got both. Marcus ate his sandwich in the break room, checking his phone. 3 missed calls from Elena and a text. Heard about the robbery on the scanner. Are you okay? He called her back, stepping into the hallway for privacy. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. Suspects in custody. Marcus, I was terrified when I heard armed robbery, District 7. I kept thinking. Her voice caught. Hey, I'm okay. Harrison had me on perimeter. I didn't even see the suspect until he surrendered. It was handled professionally. You could have been hurt. I could get hurt crossing the street. This is the job, Elena. This is what I signed up for. She was quiet for a moment. I know, I'm still adjusting to caring about someone who runs toward danger instead of away from it. Sarah used to say the same thing. She worried every time I worked construction, convinced I'd fall off scaffolding, but she also understood that some risks are worth taking. She sounds like she was remarkably brave. She was, and so are you, for being willing to care about someone in this line of work. They talked for a few more minutes, Elena's fear gradually settling into acceptance. When Marcus returned to the break room, Harrison was waiting. Girlfriend worried about you? Something like that. We're still figuring out what we are. Take your time with that. This job puts pressure on relationships. Make sure you're building something solid before you add the stress of shift work and emotional baggage. The afternoon brought more routine calls, and Marcus began to understand the rhythm of the work. Long periods of relative calm punctuated by moments of intensity. The importance of staying alert even during boring tasks. The way experienced officers could read situations with subtle cues Marcus was just beginning to recognize. During a traffic stop for a broken taillight, Harrison let Marcus take the lead while he observed. Marcus approached the vehicle with appropriate caution, made contact with the driver professionally, explained the violation clearly, and issued a warning rather than a citation because the driver was cooperative and the violation was minor. Good job, Harrison said afterward. You maintained command presence without being aggressive. That's the balance you want. As their shift neared its end, they were dispatched to a park where a homeless man had been reported sleeping on a bench. When they arrived, they found an elderly man with weathered skin and tired eyes, his belongings stuffed into garbage bags beside him. Sir, we got a complaint, Harrison said gently. I'm not here to rouser you, but I need to make sure you're okay. Are you hurt or in need of medical attention? The man looked up, his expression resigned. I'm fine, officer. Just tired. What's your name? Robert. Robert Chen. Harrison crouched down to the man's level, a gesture of respect that surprised Marcus. Robert, it's getting cold at night. We've got a shelter 2 blocks from here with beds available. Can I give you a ride? Shelters are dangerous. I'd rather take my chances out here. I understand, but I've got a card for a different place run by a veterans organization. Safer, better food. Were you military? Marines, long time ago. Thank you for your service, seriously. Harrison pulled out a business card. This is the Veterans Center. They've got resources beyond just a bed. Job placement, counseling, medical care. Would you be willing to at least call them? Robert took the card, studying it. Maybe. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Take care of yourself, Robert. Back in the car, Marcus asked, Do you think he'll call? Probably not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But I've planted a seed. Maybe next week when it's colder, he'll remember that a cop treated him like a human being instead of a problem. Maybe that'll make the difference. You do this often? Carry resources for homeless individuals? Every shift. You'll learn that a lot of policing is social work in a uniform. We're the default response for every problem society doesn't have another solution for. Mental health crisis? Call the cops. Homelessness? Call the cops. Addiction? Call the cops. We're not trained for most of it, but we're expected to handle it anyway. The best officers recognize that and try to connect people with actual help instead of just arresting them and creating a revolving door. The shift ended at 6 p.m., 12 hours after it began. Marcus was exhausted in a way the academy had never achieved, not just physically tired, but emotionally saturated. He'd seen poverty, desperation, violence, and humanity in its rawest forms. In the locker room, Harrison offered final observations. You did well today, better than well. You kept your composure, you followed instructions, you showed good judgment. Keep that up, and you'll be fine. Thank you for today, for the guidance. That's my job. See you tomorrow, Reed. Marcus drove home in the twilight, processing the day's events. The robbery had been terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. The domestic violence call had been frustrating. The interaction with Robert had been heartbreaking. All of it felt heavy and significant and somehow right. Daniel met him at the door, throwing himself into Marcus's arms. Dad, how was it? Did you catch bad guys? Did you save people? Marcus carried his son inside, settling onto the couch with Daniel in his lap. It was complicated, buddy. I helped some people. Learned a lot. Came home safe. Are you going back tomorrow? Every day for the foreseeable future. Good, because you look like a hero in that uniform. Marcus hugged his son tight, feeling the weight of the day settle into his bones. I'm not a hero. I'm just trying to do good work. That's what heroes do, Daniel said with the absolute certainty of childhood. Later, after Daniel was asleep, Marcus sat on the fire escape with a beer, the city stretched out below him. His phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Proud of you, rest well? He responded, Thank you for worrying. It means more than you know. Another text, this one from the Academy group chat. Jennifer, how was everyone's first day? Responses flooded in. David described a boring shift of traffic stops. Ashley talked about responding to a car accident. Ryan admitted he'd been nervous the entire time. Marcus typed, handled a robbery, domestic violence call, traffic stop, homeless outreach. Survived. Harrison says I did okay. Jennifer, just okay? High praise from Harrison. He's notoriously hard to please. David, you're making the rest of us look bad, Reed. Ryan, seriously, could you dial it back a little? The teasing felt good, normal, a reminder that he wasn't alone in this journey. They were all navigating the same uncertain waters, all trying to live up to the oath they'd taken. Marcus finished his beer and went inside, checking on Daniel one more time before collapsing into bed. Tomorrow would bring another shift, more challenges, more opportunities to prove himself. But tonight, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. He'd made it through day one. That was enough. The weeks turned into months with a rhythm that became Marcus's new normal. Wake before dawn, kiss Daniel's sleeping forehead, drive through darkness to the precinct, spend 12 hours navigating humanity's complexities, return home exhausted but somehow fulfilled. The work was harder than anything the Academy had prepared him for, but it was also exactly what he'd been searching for without knowing it. Harrison proved to be more than just a training officer. He became a mentor in the truest sense, teaching Marcus not just how to be a cop, but how to be the kind of cop who made a difference. They responded to domestic violence calls where Harrison showed Marcus how to see past the immediate crisis to the systemic issues underneath. They handled mental health emergencies where words and patience prevented tragedy. They worked traffic accidents, theft reports, noise complaints, and wellness checks, each one an opportunity to serve rather than simply enforce. You're getting good at this, Harrison said one morning as they finished paperwork on a burglary case Marcus had handled almost entirely on his own. Your instincts are solid. You read people well, and you haven't developed the cynicism yet, which is both good and concerning. Concerning how? Because cynicism is a defense mechanism. It protects you from caring too much, from letting this job break your heart every single shift. You're still approaching every call like it matters, like every person deserves your full attention and compassion. That's admirable. It's also unsustainable if you don't develop boundaries. Marcus considered this. What if I don't want boundaries? What if caring is the whole point? Harrison smiled sadly. Then you're going to burn out, or you're going to become exactly the kind of officer this community needs. 50-50 odds, which happens first. 3 months into his probation, Marcus faced his first real test of character. They responded to a call about suspicious activity in an alley behind a warehouse district. When they arrived, they found 3 teenagers spray painting graffiti on a building's back wall. The moment they saw the patrol car, 2 of them ran. "Police, stop!" Harrison shouted, but the kids were already disappearing around corners. The 3rd teenager, a girl who couldn't have been more than 15, froze. She dropped the spray paint can, her eyes wide with terror. Marcus approached slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. "What's your name?" "Jasmine." Her voice trembled. "Jasmine, I'm Officer Reed. You're not in trouble right now, but I need you to stay calm and talk to me. Can you do that?" She nodded, tears starting to stream down her face. Harrison was on his radio, calling in the description of the other 2 suspects, but Marcus kept his focus on Jasmine. She was terrified, yes, but underneath that he saw something else. Exhaustion, the kind that came from carrying burdens too heavy for young shoulders. "Why are you out here at 10 in the morning? Shouldn't you be in school?" "I got suspended for fighting." "Who were you fighting?" "Girl who said my mom was a junkie." Jasmine's jaw tightened. "She is, but that girl had no right to say it." Marcus recognized the defensive pride, the shame wrapped in anger. He'd seen it in the mirror often enough during his own difficult years. "Where's your mom now?" "Rehab, 4th time." My grandma's taking care of me, but she works doubles and I'm supposed to stay home, but I get so bored and my friends wanted to. The words tumbled out in a rush of confession and justification. Harrison returned, having given up the pursuit of the other two. All right, Jasmine, here's the situation. That building's owner can press charges for vandalism. If we book you, you go into the juvenile system, which is going to make your life significantly harder. So I'm going to give you a choice. Jasmine looked at him with wary hope. You give us the names of your friends, you agree to clean this wall yourself this weekend, and you check in with Officer Reed here once a week for the next month to talk about how you're doing. You do all that, we don't file charges, deal? Marcus glanced at Harrison, surprised by the offer, but trusting his judgment. Jasmine hesitated for only a moment. Deal. I'll do it. I promise. They drove her home, a small apartment in a building Marcus recognized from other calls. Jasmine's grandmother answered the door, her face shifting from confusion to anger to weary resignation when she saw the police. What did she do? Minor vandalism, ma'am, Marcus said. But we're giving her a chance to make it right. She's agreed to clean up the damage and check in regularly. We're hoping this can be a wake-up call rather than a criminal record. The grandmother looked at Jasmine with exhausted love. Girl, you're going to be the death of me. I'm sorry, Grandma. You better be. Get inside. As they walked back to the patrol car, Marcus asked, Do you do that often? Offer alternatives to arrest? When it makes sense, yeah. That kid's not a criminal. She's a kid in a bad situation making bad choices. Arresting her doesn't fix the situation. It just makes it worse. But giving her accountability, structure, someone checking in who isn't family, maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't, but it's worth trying. The following week, Jasmine showed up at the precinct for her first check-in. Marcus met her in the lobby, and they sat on a bench outside in the weak autumn sunshine. How was your week? Okay, I guess. I cleaned the wall. Took forever, but I did it. The owner came by and said I did a good job. That's great. How's school? Still suspended for another week, but Grandma's making me do homework anyway, says I can't fall behind. They talked for 30 minutes about school, about her mom's progress in rehab, about Jasmine's dream of becoming a veterinarian someday. Marcus listened more than he talked, offering encouragement when appropriate, gently challenging her when she made excuses. Why are you doing this? Jasmine asked eventually. You could have just arrested me. Why do you care? Marcus thought about Daniel, about the kind of world he wanted his son to grow up in, about the opportunities he'd been denied and the ones he'd fought to create. Because someone should care. Because you're worth the effort. Because the system's going to be hard enough on you without cops making it harder. Take the help, Jasmine. Use it to build something better. She nodded, something shifting in her expression. I'll try. Over the next month, Jasmine showed up for every check-in. Her grades improved. Her grandmother reported that she was helping more around the house, causing less trouble. It was a small victory in the grand scheme of Marcus's work, but it felt significant. Harrison noticed the change in Marcus during this time. You're finding your style, not just following protocols, but adapting them to serve people rather than just enforcing rules. That's what separates good cops from great ones. I had a good teacher. You had the raw material already. I just pointed you in the right direction. As Marcus approached the end of his probationary period, Captain Williams requested a meeting. He sat across from her in the same office where she'd offered him the Crisis Intervention Unit position, nervous despite his solid performance record. Reed, I've reviewed your evaluations. Harrison speaks very highly of you, which, as you know, is rare. Your incident reports are thorough and well-written. Your community interactions have been exemplary. You haven't had a single complaint, and you've received 3 commendations from citizens whose situations you handled with particular skill. Williams leaned forward. I'm prepared to remove you from probation early and formally offer you the CIU position. But I want to know if you're still interested. Marcus didn't hesitate. Absolutely, ma'am. Good. You'll start after you complete probation officially next month. In the meantime, I want you to shadow our current CIU team, learn their protocols, understand the specialized training. This unit handles the most complex human situations we face. You'll be dealing with people in crisis, people who are dangerous to themselves or others, people the system has failed repeatedly. It's emotionally demanding work. I understand, ma'am. I believe you do. Dismissed. That evening, Marcus took Daniel and Elena out to dinner to celebrate. A real restaurant this time instead of pizza places and diners. They sat in a booth with candles and cloth napkins, Daniel wearing his best shirt, and Elena in a dress that made Marcus forget how to form complete sentences. "Dad's moving to a special unit," Daniel announced proudly to the waitress. "He helps people who are sad or scared." The waitress smiled. "That's wonderful. We need more officers like that." After Daniel excused himself to the bathroom, Elena reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. "I'm so proud of you, everything you've accomplished, everything you've become. I couldn't have done it without you. You were there when I needed support, when I needed someone to believe in me. You would have made it regardless. But I'm glad I got to be part of the journey." She paused, her expression turning serious. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. These past 6 months, watching you grow into this career, spending time with you and Daniel, I've fallen in love with you, completely, terrifyingly in love with you." Marcus felt his heart stutter. "Elena, you don't have to say it back. I know you're still processing Sarah's loss, still figuring out how to move forward. I just needed you to know where I stand, that I'm here, that I'm committed, that I want to build something real with you if you're ready." Daniel returned to the table before Marcus could respond, but the words hung between them, precious and terrifying and full of possibility. Later that night, after dropping Elena at her apartment with a long kiss that promised future conversations, Marcus tucked Daniel into bed and sat on the edge of the mattress. "Dad, do you love Elena?" The question was direct, innocent, devastating in its simplicity. "I think I do, buddy. Is that okay with you?" Daniel considered this seriously. "I miss Mom. I'll always miss Mom. But Elena makes you smile, she makes you happy, and she's nice to me. So yeah, it's okay." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. "You're pretty wise for 7 years old. Almost 8. My birthday's in 3 weeks, remember?" "How could I forget? You've been reminding me daily for the past month." Daniel laughed, then grew serious again. "Dad, are we going to move? To a bigger place?" "Yeah, buddy. I found an apartment in a better neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, so you get your own room. Small yard out back. We move in next month." "Will Elena live with us?" "Not right now, but maybe someday, if we all agree that's what we want." "I'd like that. It's nice having someone else around besides just us." Marcus kissed his son's forehead. "Me too. Get some sleep." The following weeks passed in a blur of transitions. Marcus completed his probationary period with commendations. He moved into the new apartment with Elena's help, Daniel bouncing off the walls with excitement about having his own bedroom. The place wasn't fancy, but it was safe, clean, in a neighborhood where gunshots weren't ambient noise. On moving day, Jennifer, David, and Ryan showed up uninvited with pizza and beer, helping carry boxes up the stairs and teasing Marcus about finally living like a real adult. "Look at this," Ryan said, examining the kitchen. "Actual counter space, a refrigerator that doesn't sound like it's dying, reeds moving up in the world." "It's not much," Marcus said, but he couldn't keep the pride out of his voice. "It's everything," Jennifer corrected. "It's proof that you made it, that all the struggle was worth it." They stayed late into the evening, the apartment filling with laughter and stories, Daniel falling asleep on the couch, surrounded by people who'd become family in the truest sense. Marcus's first day with the Crisis Intervention Unit began with intensive training. The team consisted of 6 officers, each with specialized skills in de-escalation, mental health, first response, and trauma-informed policing. They handled suicide attempts, mental health emergencies, barricaded suspects, hostage situations, and any scenario where traditional policing tactics might escalate rather than resolve. His new partner was Officer Sarah Kim, a 10-year veteran with a master's in social work and the kind of calm presence that could talk down a hurricane. She was in her late 30s, Korean-American, with short hair and eyes that had seen everything but still maintained compassion. "I read about your academy simulation," Sarah said during their first patrol together. "The way you talked down that hostage scenario. That's exactly the mentality we need here. Force is always the last resort. Words first, always words first." "That's what I believe." "Good, because we're going to test that belief every single shift." Their first call came within an hour, a man threatening to jump from a parking garage, 4th floor. When they arrived, fire department and other units were already establishing a perimeter. Marcus could see the man standing on the ledge, his body swaying slightly in the wind. Sarah approached the incident commander. "We've got this. Give us 30 minutes before anyone else approaches." She and Marcus climbed the stairs, emerging onto the fourth floor slowly, hands visible, no weapons drawn. The man on the ledge was in his 50s, tears streaming down his face, his eyes vacant with despair. "Sir, my name is Sarah. This is my partner Marcus. We're here to talk, nothing else. Can you tell us your name?" "James. James Mitchell." "James, thank you for telling us that. Can you tell us what brought you here today?" "I lost everything. My job, my house, my family. There's nothing left." Marcus listened as Sarah engaged James, building rapport, creating connection. She was masterful, asking questions that made James feel heard rather than judged, validating his pain while gently introducing alternatives. After 20 minutes, Sarah looked at Marcus, a silent signal. Marcus understood. "James, I don't know everything you're going through, but I know what it's like to feel like you've lost everything. 3 years ago, my wife died. Cancer. Left me with a 7-year-old son in debt I couldn't pay. I was working 3 jobs, couldn't make rent, couldn't see a future that looked different from the past." James turned slightly, listening. "I wanted to give up. Some days I didn't know how I was going to make it to the next week, but I had my son depending on me and I couldn't let him down. So I kept going, one day at a time. And you know what? Things got better. Not easy, not perfect, but better. I'm standing here today because I didn't give up, even when giving up felt like the only option. But you had your son. I don't have anyone. You have yourself, James. And I know that doesn't feel like enough right now, but it is. You're valuable. Your life matters. And there are people who can help you rebuild. Let us be the first ones. Come down from there. Talk to us. Let us connect you with resources." Sarah extended her hand slowly. "James, take my hand. One small step. That's all you have to take right now. Just one step." For an agonizing moment, James stood frozen. Then, slowly, he reached out. Sarah grasped his hand firmly, and Marcus moved to support from the other side. Together, they guided James away from the edge, back to safety. As paramedics checked James's vitals and a mental health professional began assessment, Sarah pulled Marcus aside. "That was excellent work. Personal disclosure is tricky in these situations, but you judged it perfectly. You gave him hope by showing him someone who'd been through darkness and survived. I just told him the truth. The truth delivered with compassion at exactly the right moment. That's the art of this work." Over the following months, Marcus found his place in the crisis intervention unit. Every call was different. Every situation demanded creativity and emotional intelligence over tactical force. He talked down domestic violence suspects, helped people experiencing psychotic breaks, intervened in suicide attempts, and navigated family crises that had no good solutions, only less harmful ones. The work was exhausting in ways patrol had never been. It required Marcus to be emotionally present and vulnerable, to connect with people in their worst moments, to carry their pain without letting it destroy him. But it was also the most meaningful work he'd ever done. Harrison checked in regularly, proud of Marcus's progression. "You're doing what you were meant to do. I could see it from day one." Jasmine continued her check-ins even after the required month ended, stopping by the precinct occasionally to update Marcus on her progress. Her mother completed rehab and was slowly rebuilding her life. Jasmine's grades improved enough to qualify for a scholarship program, small victories that proved the ripple effects of second chances. Elena became a constant presence in Marcus's life, in Daniel's life, in the family they were building together. She moved in 6 months after Marcus's promotion, her clothes filling the closet next to his, her laughter filling the apartment with warmth. They navigated the challenges of blending their lives with patience and love, building something neither had expected but both treasured. One evening, nearly a year after Marcus's graduation from the academy, Elena found him on the fire escape, watching the city lights. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Marcus smiled, pulling her close. "Just thinking about how different things are from a year ago. How much has changed. Do you miss the old life?" "Not even a little bit. The struggle, the uncertainty, the constant fear that I couldn't provide for Daniel. I don't miss any of that." He kissed the top of her head. "This life, the one we're building together, this is everything I fought for. We've built something pretty amazing, haven't we? We have, and I think Sarah would be happy about that. Happy that I didn't stay stuck, that I found love again, that Daniel has someone else who cares about him. Elena was quiet for a moment. I think about her sometimes, about how much she gave you, how she shaped you into the man you are. I'm grateful to her for that. She'd like you, something, and you can take your time, something, and you can take your time answering, no pressure. Okay? She pulled a small box from her pocket, opening it to reveal a simple silver band. I know traditionally men are supposed to propose, but we've never been traditional. Marcus Reed, you're the strongest, kindest, most incredible man I've ever known. Will you marry me? Marcus stared at the ring, at Elena's hopeful face, at the future she was offering. Yes, absolutely yes. They kissed there on the fire escape, the city humming below them, two people who'd found each other in the midst of chaos and built something beautiful from the wreckage of their separate pasts. When they told Daniel the next morning, he whooped with joy loud enough to wake the neighbors, then immediately started planning the wedding with the enthusiasm only an 8-year-old could muster. Can I be the best man? Do I get to wear a tux? Can we have cake? Obviously, we're having cake. Marcus laughed, holding his son close, Elena's arms around both of them. Yes to all of it, buddy. Whatever you want. The wedding was small, held in a park on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Jennifer served as Elena's maid of honor, Harrison stood as Marcus's best man, and Daniel walked Elena down the aisle with solemn pride. The ceremony was simple, heartfelt, witnessed by the people who mattered most. Captain Williams attended, along with Sarah Kim and several other CIU team members. David Park brought his new girlfriend. Ryan Cole showed up with a thoughtful wedding gift and genuine happiness for Marcus. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony, dabbing her eyes with tissues she'd brought specifically for this purpose. When Marcus and Elena exchanged vows, Daniel stood between them, his hand in both of theirs, a symbol of the family they were becoming. I promise to love you, to support you, to be your partner in all things, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. You gave me hope when I needed it most. You showed me that life could be more than survival. You and Daniel are my everything. Elena's vows were equally heartfelt, promising to honor Sarah's memory while building new memories, to love Daniel as her own, to stand beside Marcus through whatever challenges their future held. The reception was joyful chaos, dancing and laughter and speeches that ranged from touching to hilarious. Harrison toasted Marcus's journey from struggling single father to accomplished officer to devoted husband. Jennifer talked about watching Marcus prove every doubter wrong through quiet determination. Daniel gave a speech he'd clearly rehearsed, thanking Elena for making his dad smile again. As the sun set and the party wound down, Marcus found a quiet moment with Daniel watching Elena dance with her sister. You happy, Dad? Happier than I've been in a long time, buddy. Me too. This is good. We're good. Yeah, we are. The following months brought continued growth and stability. Marcus received commendations for his crisis intervention work, his name becoming known throughout the department as someone who could handle the impossible cases with compassion and skill. Elena's career advanced, her expertise in student services earning her a promotion. Daniel thrived in school, his confidence growing alongside his reading level. They bought a small house in a good neighborhood, their first real home together. Marcus planted a garden in the backyard, teaching Daniel about patience and growth and nurturing things until they flourished. Elena filled the house with warmth and life, photos on every wall, love in every corner. On the anniversary of Sarah's death, Marcus visited her grave with flowers and Daniel at his side. They stood in silence for a moment, honoring the woman who'd given them both so much. Thank you, Marcus said softly, for Daniel, for the years we had, for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I hope you'd be proud of the life we've built. Daniel placed his own small bouquet next to Marcus's. I miss you, Mom, but I want you to know we're okay. Dad found someone who loves us. We're happy. I think you'd like that. Walking back to the car, Daniel asked, Do you think Mom knows about Elena? I think if there's any way she can know, she does. And I think she'd approve. Good. Because I really love Elena. Me too, buddy. Me too. Years passed with the gentle rhythm of a life well lived. Marcus continued his work in crisis intervention, becoming a senior member of the unit, training new officers in the art of de-escalation and compassionate policing. He became known throughout the community, not as just another cop, but as someone who genuinely cared, who saw people rather than problems. Elena's work with students evolved into program development, creating support systems for young people navigating difficult circumstances. She and Marcus often collaborated, connecting the dots between social services and policing in ways that actually helped rather than hurt. Daniel grew into a remarkable young man, shaped by watching his father overcome impossible odds through determination and integrity. He volunteered with youth programs, talked openly about his mother's death and his father's journey, became an advocate for second chances and compassionate systems. On Marcus's 10th anniversary as a police officer, Captain Williams called him into her office one final time. "Reed, I'm retiring next year. I've been thinking about who should replace me, who has the vision and integrity to lead this department into the future. Your name keeps coming to the top of the list." Marcus sat back, stunned. "Ma'am, I'm honored, but I'm not sure I'm the right person for that kind of leadership." "You're exactly the right person. You've proven that excellence comes from character, not credentials. That leadership means serving others, not commanding them. That real change happens one interaction at a time, one person choosing compassion over convenience." William smiled. "Think about it. No pressure. But know that I believe in you. Just like I did the day you put Ryan Cole on his back in 3 seconds. Marcus left her office with his head spinning, the possibilities overwhelming. When he got home that evening, he found Elena and Daniel in the kitchen, cooking dinner together, laughing over some inside joke. This was his life now. This beautiful, hard-won, impossibly good life. Elena looked up, reading his expression immediately. What happened? Marcus told them about Williams's offer, about the opportunity and the fear tangled together. "You should do it," Daniel said immediately. He was 15 now, taller than Marcus remembered being at that age, wise beyond his years. "You could make real change, Dad. Help more people. Isn't that what you've always wanted?" "It would mean more responsibilities, more time away from you both." Elena crossed the kitchen, wrapping her arms around him. "Marcus Reed, you spent your entire life believing you weren't enough, that you didn't deserve good things. When are you going to accept that you're extraordinary, that you've earned every opportunity that comes your way? Take the position. We'll figure out the rest together." So Marcus did. He accepted the promotion, became Captain Reed, and spent the next decade transforming the department from the inside out. He implemented community policing initiatives, crisis intervention training for all officers, accountability measures that actually meant something. He hired people like him, people who'd overcome adversity, who understood struggle, who brought lived experience to their work. The change wasn't easy or fast, but it was real. Crime rates dropped. Community trust increased. Officer-involved shootings decreased. The department became known as a model for reform-minded policing, and Marcus became known as the captain who proved that compassion and accountability could coexist. Through it all, Elena stood beside him. Daniel grew into a man who made them both proud, and the family they'd built remained the center of everything. They weathered difficulties together, Marcus's occasional nightmares from difficult calls, Elena's stress during challenging work periods, Daniel's typical teenage struggles. But they weathered them together, and that made all the difference. 20 years after walking into that academy gymnasium as a 30-year-old with nothing but desperation and determination, Marcus stood at a podium addressing the graduating academy class, his hair graying at the temples, his uniform bearing the insignia of captain. "I stood where you're standing 20 years ago," he told them. "I was older than most of you, poorer than all of you, convinced I was in over my head. People doubted me. Some of you will face doubt too. Some of you already have. But I want you to understand something fundamental. This badge you're receiving today isn't a license to command. It's a commitment to serve, to see the humanity in every person you encounter, to understand that your authority is only legitimate when it's exercised with wisdom and compassion." He paused, looking out at the young faces full of hope and fear and determination. "There will be hard days. Days when you question why you chose this path. Days when the grief and frustration feel overwhelming. But there will also be days when you change someone's life, when your presence makes the difference between tragedy and hope, When you get to be the person someone needed most, those days make everything else worthwhile. In the audience, Elena sat with their teenage son beside her, both beaming with pride. Daniel leaned over and whispered, "Dad's speech is pretty good." "It should be," Elena whispered back. "He's been living it for 2 decades. After the ceremony, Marcus stood in the same hallway where he'd once nervously waited for his own graduation, shaking hands with new officers, offering encouragement, seeing himself in their anxious excitement. Ryan Cole approached, now a sergeant himself, transformed from the arrogant kid who'd once mocked Marcus into a solid officer who credited Marcus with teaching him what real strength looked like. "Great speech, Captain. Really nailed it." "Thanks, Ryan. How's your probie doing?" "Struggling. She's scared, which is actually a good sign. The scared ones pay attention. Give her time and patience. She'll find her way." As the crowd dispersed, Harrison appeared, retired now, but still attending every graduation. 20 years. Can you believe it? Some days, no. Other days, it feels like a lifetime. "You've done good work, Marcus. Changed a lot of lives, mine included." "I learned from the best." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the new officers celebrate with their families, the cycle continuing. That evening, Marcus returned home to find the house full of people. Elena had organized a surprise party, inviting everyone who'd been part of his journey. Jennifer was there with her family, David Park and his wife, Ashley Rodriguez, Sarah Kim, even Jasmine, now a veterinary student at the State University, living proof of second chances. "What is all this?" Marcus asked, genuinely surprised. 20 years on the force," Elena said. "That deserves celebrating." They ate and talked and shared stories late into the night, the house filled with laughter and love. Marcus watched Daniel hold court with the younger crowd, telling stories about growing up as a cop's kid with humor and affection. He saw Elena moving through the room, connecting with everyone, making them feel welcome, being the heart of this chosen family they'd built. Later, when everyone had gone home and Daniel was asleep, Marcus and Elena sat on their back porch, watching fireflies in the garden. "I've been thinking about that day in the academy parking lot," Marcus said. "When you first approached me, I was terrified, convinced I didn't belong, certain I was going to fail. You were also determined. I could see it in your eyes. You were going to succeed or die trying. I almost did die trying several times, but you wouldn't let me. You kept showing up, kept believing, kept reminding me that I was capable." Elena took his hand. "You did the work, Marcus. I just cheered from the sidelines. You did so much more than that. You gave me hope. You gave Daniel a mother figure who loves him completely. You built this life with me when I couldn't imagine having anything this good." "We built it together. That's the important part. Together." Marcus pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the solid warmth of her presence. "I love you, more than I have words to express. I love you too, now and always." They sat there as darkness deepened and stars emerged, two people who'd found each other when they both needed it most, who'd built something beautiful from struggle and sacrifice and stubborn refusal to give up. The journey from that desperate morning at the academy to this moment of peace and fulfillment had been long and hard, but every step had been worth it. Inside the house, Daniel's bedroom light clicked off. In the neighborhood, families settled in for the night. At the precinct, officers were starting their shifts, protecting and serving, carrying forward the values Marcus had worked so hard to instill. The city hummed with life, complex and challenging and full of possibility. And Marcus Reed, once a struggling single father with nothing but determination, now a captain with a family he adored and a legacy he was proud of, finally allowed himself to believe what Daniel had told him years ago on that first day of training. He'd made it. They'd made it. And tomorrow they'd wake up and keep building, keep serving, keep loving, keep proving that resilience and compassion could transform not just one life, but an entire community. The future stretched out before them, uncertain, but no longer frightening, full of challenges, but equally full of joy. Together, they would face whatever came next, just as they always had. Together.